What's up, crowd? Thank you, guys. Got me in my school clothes today. RobLive back to school. Jim, how's school going?
It's good, man. I like it. It's
week 2?
Yeah, well, catch me in about 3 more weeks.
We're in the honeymoon phase
Yeah,
right now as teachers. All the kids are nice right now, and they love us. Right? It'll come around.
They're
to
scared
it.
of us. They're not. They don't love us yet. They're scared of us.
You don't love me? No, love you, kids.
Yeah.
Okay, stay in school.
Yep. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, tune in. Some of them are subscribers, so I have to backpedal a little bit right now. Okay. So anyway, RobLive, we're back. We took a little bit of a break because we're back in school. As you know, we're both educators and love serving our communities, but we also want to make sure we continue to get these messages of hope out on a regular basis. And we're coming back strong. So we didn't just, bring in anybody today. We got the man with the plan, the author, the lifesaver, right? Let's get a round of applause for our guest today, Lino.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Job. Lino, wait, I was going to say Cordova, not Cordova.
Camacho.
Camacho. I don't know where I got Cordova from. Lino Camacho. Any relation to the boxer?
No, I'm Mexican, so I'm the better boxer.
he was Puerto Rican, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, do you remember that Macho Camacho, Jim?
Oh yeah.
Did you watch the documentary?
No.
Because I thought he was still alive, but in the documentary, wait, am I spoiler alert right now?
I don't know.
He got shot.
Really?
Yeah, randomly in Puerto Rico.
Hector Macho Camacho?
Yeah.
That was the name, right? Hector?
Yeah, he got shot. It was sad. I was like, what? I thought he was still alive.
Wow.
You know how there's some people that like they're celebrities and you still think they're alive, or sometimes you think they've already passed? Like one of my heroes, well, I guess he's not that much of a hero if I didn't keep track of him this much, but Phil Donahue. Remember Phil Donahue?
You got to give me a reference.
Yeah, he was a famous, one of the first famous talk show hosts, along with Oprah. He came right before Oprah Winfrey.
Oh, really?
She said, without Phil Donahue, there's no Oprah.
Wow.
But he was like in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
And I was a little kid. And so I thought he'd already passed, but he just recently passed like 2 weeks ago or a week ago.
Oh, no way.
And I was like, oh, my bad. I thought he was already. But we're here and we're present. And Lino, our origin is that Jim, check this out. Former guests are now sending me potential future guests.
Well, that's
so
nice.
Someone asked me, well, how do you know Lino Camacho? I said, well, one of our former guests texted me and said, hey, I know somebody who'd be really good for the show. And then I don't know if she saw you at one of your...
That was Chuck E. Cheese.
She saw you at Chuck E. Cheese?
Yeah,
okay, tell me that. It was Christy, right?
Yeah.
Christy Kamara.
Yeah. And it was at Chuck E. Cheese. I was with my wife and the girls.
Yeah.
And, we're in the little section for the little ones. And then I always carry my books around. And so because you never know who you run into. And so I just told her.
Did she tell you she's an author as well? She has a book.
She did tell me that. Yeah.
So she saw your book.
Yeah. And because I told her, hey, I know it's kind of random, but I wrote these books to help anybody going through this, and this. And so, actually, I can say it: PTSD, anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, marital problems, addictions, combat, homelessness, childhood traumas, all the things I've been through.
Yeah.
And that's why I told her. At least that's what I told her for this one. And then I guess I'll
Hope
put it
for the
that way.
22.
Hope for the 22. And then so I showed her that, and then I showed her this one. Then I got this one as well.
Purpose-Driven Pain.
Purpose-Driven
I love that title.
Oh, thank you.
And here's why I connect with that right now immediately off the title itself, is that when I, growing up, and Jim, I'm sure you're the same way because I know we both use our lives in our classrooms, right? And so I had a lot of, tough moments as a kid. And of course, we all go into victim mode. Why God? Why me? Right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, all that's been answered now because while I'm in the classroom, I can now relate to a lot of what my students are going through because of my pain.
Yeah.
So it's purpose-driven pain in the sense that it served a purpose.
Oh, yeah.
And in this case, that purpose is I can relate to my students on a different level.
Oh, yeah.
Jim, do you ever find yourself sharing some of your pain with the kids?
Yeah, but sometimes it's deeper than I need to share. It's like
You overshare?
It's like
Okay, give me a deep one. What'd you throw out there?
I think I started talking about drunk driving. So we do PSA commercials and stuff like that. And I was talking about.
Oh, you told them that
I lost a cousin from a drunk driver.
Oh, man.
And so as you start getting into the reason why we're doing this is because it strikes a nerve, and you want to make sure that as I'm saying this, I'm striking a nerve within myself, and I'm just like, all right, well, yeah, that's enough. We're just going to move on. And they right away were quiet, and
because they catch your emotion.
Yeah. And you become a real person to them. Right now they just think we're teachers and we're a warm body in there. We don't really have that connection yet with this new year.
Yeah.
But it was So I share a lot of my personal stories with them.
Mm-hmm. So there it is. It's that pain that becomes what resonates most with all of us. We talk about in my class, because I have a creative writing class, and I know you're an author. We talk about universal themes that anyone around the world can relate to. And so I always tell kids, your story should have an element to it that we could translate into any language, and anyone from any country could go, even though I haven't lived that life in that particular culture, that emotion is universal. Things like pain, love, right? Suffering, like you said, pride. These are all, they cross all lines.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's what really connects us all together, is to say, hey, you know what? I don't know your life, but I know pain, and I see pain in your eyes. Yeah. And now we're brothers in that experience.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to connect with somebody. And so it just breaks the ice. And so it really breaks the ice, and they bring down their guard. Once you open up first, they're like, oh, I can open up about this stuff. Yeah. And so it's like it encourages them.
No, speaking of which, I was watching your, you gave a speech at a local church. Was that in Visalia?
That was actually in Porterville. So it's called Lighthouse Gospel Lighthouse Church.
Okay, so when you gave that speech at Gospel Lighthouse Church in Porterville, shout out to Lighthouse Church, right? And let me go back a little bit. Christy, Kamara, thank you for the wonderful guest that you hustled for me at Chuck E. Cheese. We're going to get back to that Chuck E. Cheese story.
Yeah, thank you.
But, just this whole idea that when you're little, you think, why am I going through this? And now you have peace in knowing that it served a purpose.
Yep.
There was a reason for your struggle, and that is to help others.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I can relate with the children that have grown up where they were sexually, they're touched.
Yeah.
And so they were touched. So I got molested when I think I was 4 or 5. 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah, you mentioned that in your speech. And So when you said things like that, right, I felt a lot more comfortable meeting you in person and saying, okay, the transparency's there.
Yeah.
And that opens up so many doors, as opposed to, sometimes you'll have a guest who's like, hey, I'll talk about this, but maybe not that.
Yeah.
And I want to protect this part of my life, which there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. But it does kind of limit my ability to relate to them on some level, just being a naturally transparent person to some degree.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not to the degree, because you take it to a next level.
Yeah, I'm very transparent.
Yeah. And I feel comfortable instantly with that.
And so, and that's why I encourage people to do it, because, I mean, one thing I learned, I don't know if you want me to go into the Blevy yet.
Oh, no, we're going to get to it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot to. Important. But I didn't want to ruin the Christy, Kamara, Chuck E. Cheese story. So she's there, you're there, you have the books.
Yeah, so I mentioned the books, and she's like, oh, wow, that's amazing, And so, not tooting my own horn or anything.
Yeah.
And so she started talking to me, and then talking to us, to me and my wife, about how they adopt children and stuff.
Yeah.
And so they take care of them and stuff. And then, my wife and I, we value that. We love that. We love that when people are willing to adopt other children, because it's difficult with your own children,
Yeah.
And so for you to have that big of a heart to go and help other people's children,
yes,
it's amazing, And so her daughter was playing with our daughter, and so they just became best friends that instant, It was just instant.
Wow.
And then we started talking.
Christy adopted?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
now, how much do you know about her story?
Very little.
Very little.
Yeah, we were there for.
We interviewed her at my little tiny house studio before we got into the big budget production of Jim. Yeah. But I'll just give you a brief summary for you guys so you know. She had a son, and had divorced, right? Mm-hmm. And her ex-husband was dealing with a lot of mental health issues, etc. And he had supervised visits. And so one day she goes to pick him up from a supervised visit to take him to school, and encounters police tape around.
Oh, no way.
Her ex-husband shot their son.
Wow.
Killed him. and then took his own life. A term is called filicide, which is when a parent takes their own child's life, right? And then, you know, of course, she went through all the loss and pain and turned that pain into a book.
Wow.
Right. I believe the title, I don't have it in front of me, but it's Can I Still Be Funny After My Son's Murder?
Wow.
So she comes from a source of pain, and that resonated. And she's an author.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, and so for her to come and find you, right, and continue with another great story, I'm just internally grateful for. I actually I stopped by her house today and dropped off one of these, which we'll talk about these a little bit later. But we want to get into your story now.
Yeah.
And I want to start early on because I know that your life started with some trauma, but I don't want to paint it all as like, man, Lino's just a series of tragedies. Yeah. So I'm sure there were some good times early on in life.
Oh, no, yeah, of course.
Where were you raised?
I was raised in Farmersville, California. And so I would...
Aztecs.
Yeah, there you go.
Can we get a horn for the Aztecs? Farmersville Aztecs.
And so I would go back and forth because my parents were divorced.
Okay.
So I grew up with divorced parents, and that's never fun.
Who did you spend most of your time with?
With my mom.
With your mom.
So my mom and my grandparents.
And were both parents located in Farmersville?
No, my dad lived, actually, he still lives in Mexico. So right there near the border.
So you would go all the way to Mexico and then come back?
Yep.
Like
and
Tijuana?
It's kind of like TJ and San Diego, and this is Mexicali and Calexico. And so like border.
Mexicali's through Calexico. No. What's that town called?
El Centro.
El Centro.
Yeah, so
right
El Centro, and it's a little bit, Calexico is a lot closer to Mexicali because it's right next to the border.
And that's where your dad was.
And that's where my dad lives. He still lives there.
And how often were you leaving home to go visit
we
him?
would go see him. I mean, when I was a kid, I don't remember too much, but I do remember we were always going back and forth. My parents would always fight and stuff, and so my dad was cheating and stuff, and so my mom would have to go back and stuff. But my mom was in love pretty much with my dad and didn't care. She would continue moving back, and it's also because now as a parent, I understand.
She wanted to keep the family together.
She wanted the boys because there's two brothers and myself. Yeah. And we would always ask, "Where's Dad? Like, where's my dad?" You know. And so.
Were you the youngest?
I'm the middle child.
Middle child.
That's what they call me.
Too.
Yeah. That's my name. That's my identity. The middle child.
You have a lot of names. Yeah. We're gonna get to the other names.
Yeah. SpongeBob, Freddy Krueger.
Really? Those are all your names?
My brother was the one that started those.
And then Mexican jumping bean.
In the military.
What was the other one? There's one more. We just said it like 5 minutes ago.
El Guapo. No, I'm just kidding.
Throw some good ones in there.
I just made that one up, you know.
There was no Güero?
Güero, Miklo. From Blood In, Blood Out, yeah.
Jim, do you know Miklo?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what they called me because I was around.
That movie forever, right?
Yeah.
La Onda.
Vatos Locos for life.
Hey, but it brought the white people involved and brought us in.
Yeah, we got to fit into the soccer.
Yeah, it brought us in.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, now I'm thinking of Miklo as we ask. But, so at around 4 or 5 years old, you had some trauma. Did that happen with your dad or your mom?
So, like, are you talking about, like, with the touching and stuff?
Yeah.
That was a babysitter. The babysitter. And so, and I actually...
So, was this like a grown adult female?
I think she was 15 or 16.
16. And so, you were 5.
Yeah, and I was 5. She did it to all 3 of us. And so...
Oh, my God.
And we were kids, you know.
And so, at what point were you able to speak up about this?
Actually, my older brother was the one that brought it up to my mom and to my dad. And then,
long after or right when it was happening?
I think it was probably a week after. I really don't remember.
Like a week?
Yeah, and they didn't believe him because he was always making things up.
Oh, man.
He still does today. He's always the goofball, you know. And so they thought, which I encourage people, if you're watching this, your children say somebody's touching them, pay attention. Open your ears and be very cautious with who you leave your kids, even if it's family. And so usually it's family or somebody well-known in the family that does that to little
So in this case, was it family or family friend?
Family friend. And so it's one of our aunt's friend from school.
So it never got addressed?
It never got addressed. And so got rid of the babysitter. And so, and I was mad. And so, because I wanted it to happen again. Because she turned something on. She despertó. And so, sorry, I was going to Spanish, but she woke something up and destroyed my innocence.
Yeah.
You know, and ever since then, it started an addiction to pornography because I was looking for that.
That same
That
feeling.
same dopamine that you feel.
Like a drug.
And it's a drug, and they say it's more addictive than cocaine. And so, and that's what they say. But yeah, and so that really destroyed my innocence as a child. And that's why I encourage people, be very cautious with who you leave your kids to, what they watch. If they're on the phone, don't leave kids with the phone. I can't stand that.
Yeah.
And they leave kids with phones and stuff because they can look at so many different things.
They can access anything.
Oh, yeah.
They now have apps and stuff that you can kind of track and block that stuff. But even then, right?
Yeah, well, you don't know who's going to be in there and who's going to be,
You're right. And I don't want to make this a cultural thing, but I can only speak on what I know.
Yeah.
And Jim, you can jump in, right, for the Caucasian side of things. But as a Mexican, I don't know how many people have talked to me about an uncle.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Rarely females in this particular, my experience.
Yeah.
But there's always like an uncle somewhere who's either attempted or, has sexually abused a relative. And this is the most frustrating part. The family tries to cover it up like it's a dirty secret, right?
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, either they don't believe the victim or they shame the victim into not wanting to say anything anymore. And then the uncle moves on and continues to abuse.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just saying uncle because all the cases I know of, it's an uncle. But it could be, like you said, a babysitter, friend of the family.
And it can be a dad. It can be not saying that my dad did anything like that. Saying,
but I've heard of fathers.
I met people where their own dad sexually assaulted, raped their own child, raped them, and so because I know them, and so they open up to me.
Yeah.
And so they told me horrible things since she was 4 or 5, and she got raped by her own dad. And I know somebody else that got raped by her stepfather and the friends of the stepfather. Meanwhile, the mom was asleep. And so because they're all drunk and they went into a room and did all those things. And so just horrible stories like that. Yeah. And she almost committed suicide,
Yeah.
And so it's just horrible things that people have got to. And one was a child and the other one was still a child. And I can't remember how old she was, middle school, I think, or elementary. And so it just, adults think that they forget that there's kids that are going through a lot of hell. And so I remind the adults, hey, don't brush off your teenagers' emotions and stuff, or little elementary school kids that they're overreacting. It's like there might be something going on there. You need to investigate. Yeah. And so, but yeah, that's why I love what Jesus says. He says, it's better for you to tie a millstone around your neck and drown yourself in the depths of the sea than for you to harm any one of these children. And so that's mafioso talk. It's Jesus is saying it's better for you to sleep with the fishes than for you to harm any one of these children.
I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, Jesus says that.
Wow.
And so that's why I remind
Lino
people,
bringing the gangster quotes from the Bible, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I always say that. I always say that in case there's a cochino, there's some nasty pedophile listening.
Yeah.
So you better change. You better pull your head out where the sun don't shine. Yeah. And so because you're gonna suffer.
Yeah. Well, so, on our end, and Jim, we've both had experiences where we see this sort of predatory behavior in educators.
Yeah.
And that's so disheartening, that when something like that happens. And the part that I try to fight, because the natural human instinct, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, is that when you know someone in education who makes bad decisions like that, predatory decisions, for a little while there, you start looking at everybody like, okay, well, he had me fooled or she had me fooled.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else that I need, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so you have to kind of snap out of that, because like, that's not what I feel is the best approach to now become super paranoid.
Yeah.
Be informed,
yeah.
Be intelligent, be observant.
Yes.
But continue to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we live in a society where, I'm watching you, you're watching me, and we're both suspicious.
Anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. That actually happened to me when I became an officer. And so I saw these cases of pedophiles, and I was just paranoid. I would go to the
Did you
park
have children at the time?
Yeah. And so
that makes it even.
Yeah. And so that's why I was like watching everybody, and I wouldn't talk to anybody anymore. And before I became an officer, I was always sharing my story. And
like you are now.
Yeah. And so I was always sharing my story, and I was happy. I was just smiling and just speak to random people all the time. And like I treat them like they're my best friend, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but then after I became an officer, I was like super paranoid. I wouldn't talk to him, but I was just watching everybody. And so I went back to the paranoia from the military, all the PTSD and all that stuff. And then
triggered it.
Yeah. And so, and I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. So I got out. I was like, I can't be doing this.
So that's why you left.
Yeah.
So let's go back to your timeline. I know that at 5 years old, you had a traumatic incident. And then throughout your school years, did anything else happen traumatic that kind of shaped your...
As an adult, you wouldn't think it's so traumatic. But when you're a teenager and when you're a kid, it's like the worst thing that can happen, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was in middle school, and I had warts growing on my hands, you know, and so it was very...
And kids are mean.
Yeah, very gross, and so I would hide them. I was really good at hiding them, but the more you have, I'm trying to think of the way to say it, the more humidity, so when you hide them with gloves, and the more it sweats, it makes it spread more, and so I ended up starting with 2 or 3, I ended up having 18 on each hand, and so that's...
For how long?
I had it for like a year and a half or 2 years.
See, that's crazy. You know why it's crazy? Check this out, Jim. I don't know if you guys can see that. I burned my hand the other day, right?
Oh, wow.
It's still healing. But I find just this little burn, I'm like kind of like, you know, trying to cover it up a little bit. I can imagine warts as a, you know, young, impressionable, somewhat insecure grade schooler.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I wanted to have girlfriends and stuff. Yeah. And I was like, I can't even go out with anybody because I got... And then I started having acne.
Recognize it?
Oh yes, yeah. One time I raised my hand, and then it was a girl. She's like, "Ew, what is that?" And then right away I went like that, and so I put my hand down, and so I was all embarrassed and stuff. And then
so every day you're going to school anxious, waiting to be caught,
anxiety, and then fighting parents all the time, going back and forth during the summer to go see my dad, and then having to experience those things. I don't want to say too much. Try not to say too much because I love my dad. I forgave my dad for everything he did.
Yeah.
But just having family members, really close family members, tell you get the hell out or get the F out. Get the F out of here, you know?
Yeah.
And so vaya ser nada, you know what? And so hearing things like that as a kid from your own dad and then from your grandmother. And so it was just, I was sick and tired of it. Yeah. It was, I think it hurts more than, getting beat.
Yeah, I'd rather just take a whooping.
Yeah, take a whooping is
that
better.
Rejection and that pain. I talk about this in my class, and I don't know, Jim, what your policy is in your classroom on profanity.
Yeah,
because profanity is going to happen. The hallway's got it. Do you have a rule on this, Jim?
Yes, a very harsh rule
on profanity.
Yep.
Okay, so my rule comes from a place of trauma, like you said. And again, we're not here to badmouth dads, but they have a big impression on us.
Yeah.
And so the story I tell in my classroom, I said, "Hey guys, I've heard F-bombs before. I've used some of these words. We're not trying to pretend like they don't exist or that I'm appalled by it, but it creates an unsafe vibe." And so I tell the story that my dad was sweeping and he used to get angry.
Yeah.
And he would sweep really hard, right?
Yeah.
And I remember when he was sweeping this one time, he was kind of grumbling to himself. And he's saying, "You effing people this and you effing people that." And I'm like, damn, he's mad at somebody. Who are these effing people, right? Yeah. Because it would sound like he was cussing like you would aggressively at a fellow adult.
Yeah.
I would never imagine that you would say something like that to a child.
Yeah.
So me and my sisters were like, man, he's mad at some effing people.
Yeah.
And then I started to get the watery eyes and the lump in your throat where you're trying to hold back tears as you start to realize he's talking about us.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And I imagine myself, not to say I'm father of the year, but I would never refer to my 7-year-old as you effing people.
Yeah.
There's just a coldness about it.
Oh, yes.
So this whole vaya ser la chingada, right? All that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a very cold thing And when you feel a coldness from an adult who's supposed to love you unconditionally, it's pain, different pain. Did you ever feel that, Jim? Did you ever get that? Or you felt like you had good situation?
We were okay in the house. I think my parents fought a lot in the house as well, but they fought more about money and stuff, spending habits
but not targeting. Not
towards us. No, we were spanked and whipped with a belt and disciplined just like anyone else. But my dad would basically take the anger that he had with my mom and shut it down to where he couldn't talk. He wouldn't talk. So it was more of a silent treatment because it's like, okay, get away from him because he'll blow up and you just want to be. So we would go outside, we would play and whatever.
Let him cool off.
Yeah. So we didn't really have that. Yeah. They didn't turn that to it, which is great because I don't do that with my kids. We don't do the same. We do the same thing. We don't ration out on them. They know what the penalties are for their actions. Yeah. And so we've been blessed with raising them really well. So
that's really beautiful. Yeah. And that's how it should be.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I try to do that because I got my little ones and I don't want to be angry and having angry outbursts and stuff. I want to be the example of the type of husband I want my daughters to end up marrying.
Yes.
And so I'm not thinking about boyfriends. I want my daughters to look for their husband. Yeah. And so obviously when they're older, and so I want them to have the example of, okay, how do I want my husband to be? And so I want to be the best example of what a husband should be like. Yeah. And obviously, dad.
Yeah, well, I heard this from a counselor once. It's exactly what you're saying and doing. And I don't know if I shared this with you, Jim, but there was a girl that I knew. I think we were college together maybe afterwards. And she was in counseling, and she worked for local agencies here in Fresno. And she had a coworker, and he would go on daddy-daughter dates, right? Mm-hmm. And he would take her out about once a week, open the door, pay for everything, do everything that you would want a gentleman to do on a date. Yeah. And so from an early age, there's a subconscious expectation on how you're going to treat me. And it was really smart, really clever. Yeah. The little girl's maybe 5 or 6, and she knows, hey, someone's supposed to open the door.
Oh, yeah.
Someone's going to cover the bill.
Yep.
And just all those little things that very gentlemanly type things. So that when she gets older, she's conditioned to have a certain expectation.
Yeah. Did you ever go on those father-daughter dances?
I wish I did. My daughter did.
Did you do that?
She didn't want to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're 3.5 and 1.5.
Oh, yeah.
Go. Yeah. Do what he
did
said. Oh, 100%. And I did the flowers, the knocking on the door. Is Kindle here?
You did all that?
The whole thing, yeah.
And you shook.
I definitely want to do that.
You shook hands?
I got down on one knee and gave her the flowers. And it was
Jim,
really, it was good.
Can we share the handshaking story or not?
Yeah. Which one?
The handshaking story. You as a father, do you remember that?
Yeah, he's not around anymore, so no. Yeah, no, I don't. Well, I mean, there was a gentleman in my daughter's life that came and he would come by and shake my hand and stuff like that.
No, he wouldn't. That was the whole thing.
Well, he did
early on. He didn't, and so that was your thing. Like, hey, come shake my hand.
So in my family, it's manners.
Yes.
All that stuff that my grandparents and all of us taught us. But you shake the gentleman's hand. You shake the dad's hand. You can. There's no. I'm gonna take your daughter out and I'll see you later.
Yeah.
You're gonna meet me first.
No, you're gonna meet me.
I like that
whole
policy.
thing. I mean, I was telling you earlier that we met my daughter's parents. We had an intervention with them. Yeah. We made an attempt to. We did actually do it. Sat them down to get to know who they are, where they work, and stuff like that. So we met them before they started dating. Yeah. And I encourage any parent to do that because you don't know who you're turning your kids off to. To be with, but. Real nervous. That was
good the way you handled it.
Real nervous to shake my hand or come in and talk and stuff. And I said, "Hey,
big guy."
Well, I found out later on. I was telling my daughter about it, and he was nervous. And he has he perspires.
Oh. Sweaty
hands, and just naturally, like he gets nervous, but then he really sweats. Wow. Like you were talking about with your issues with your hands. But so he was more embarrassed. Yeah. And he calls me. And tells
I thought that was really classy.
He calls me and tells me the whole story of why he doesn't, he just didn't want to do that because he has this issue and stuff. And what we talked for a while. And anyways, long story short, I told him, I said, well, now I know, so let's do it. Yeah. There's no, you already broke the ice, so
we'll just dry our hands off.
Yeah, whatever. Shake my hand. Every time you come, let's shake hands and we move forward. And it was sweaty for a couple more times, but after that, the sweatness kind of. You now move on beyond that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that was. I think I opened up the door and then we broke the ice and stuff.
That was a pivotal moment, right? For you.
Yeah. So
good for you.
Yeah, but they're not together anymore, so I don't have to worry about sweat. Shaking his hand anymore.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so getting back to, I want to go back to the high school years. Jim, check this out. This story tripped me out when I heard this. So I'm going to start it and then you finish it.
Sure.
Okay, so Lino's in high school. He's a senior now, right? And I don't remember the reason why, but he was going to school later on this particular day rather than just the 8 a.m. first period, right? And so he's home at this time, and I believe he's with his brother, and they start hearing some screaming, and somebody says that a dog is attacking someone. And then take it from there.
Yeah, so we were at a yard sale, and
wait, is it a weekday morning yard sale?
Yeah, it was on a Wednesday.
How random is that?
And that's why I like to bring that up because everything was random.
Is this Farmersville?
This was Farmersville. And
all
so,
right. Hey, Farmersville, we see you. We're going to come get some stuff.
Yeah. Wednesday morning on senior days. And so that day, the seniors were testing a little bit later. Yeah. And so
everything was aligned for you to be home at that time.
Yeah.
You were in your neighborhood?
I was right there. So we were, I was inside. I was just relaxing before I had to go to school. Yeah. And it was almost time to go, but then they asked me to go and help with the yard sale. And so I started moving boxes, and my brother too, my older brother. And then, so we were moving boxes and stuff. And then all of a sudden we hear our neighbor in the front. She runs out of the house, older lady. And so she starts yelling, dog attack, dog attack, dog attack. And so my brother and I, we look at each other. We got our things, like the yard sale stuff in our hands. And then we look at each other. We just drop the boxes and we run across the street. And we jump over this fence. It's a shorter fence. And so for us, it's tall. And so, because we're both short, and so we jump over that fence, and then we had to jump over another fence. When we jumped over that one, my brother fell in between the beams. He got stuck, and he was like, "Ah!"
Your brother was stuck. So you told me he looked like a zombie.
Yeah, he looked like a zombie. And the sound that he made, could see in his back, and so he was stuck in between the beams. Man. And I don't even know how he got in there, and so. And I just started laughing. You okay? He's like, yeah, go ahead.
Go.
Yeah, go.
Save them.
Yeah. And so he's trying to figure out how to get out. And so I go, and I'm in the backyard on the side of the backyard.
And now you don't have any assistance.
It's just me. It's just me. And so I peek around the corner, and then I see there's a big dog. It's a chow mixed with a German Shepherd and a boxer. And so
chows are surprisingly aggressive.
Yes.
From what I know.
And they look nice. They look friendly.
Yeah, but they're aggressive.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this dog's biting something or someone. I didn't see if it was a person or another dog. And so I'm looking, and then all of a sudden I see the dog go like that, just throw the baby. And so toddler. Yeah. And so
like
the toddler,
a year and a half.
A year and a half. I have a year and a half old daughter. And so when I say this story now, before it was emotional, but now as a father, I can't imagine anything like that happening. It's very traumatic.
Now I did have a question when I heard this story the first time. Where are the parents of the toddler while this is going down? Not the judge.
No, and so actually. I'm not saying the names.
They were at the yard sale.
Yeah, they were at the yard sale.
Only Jim.
Actually, no. I think the parents
were they trying to stop this too, or were they screaming?
No, they weren't there, and so they were the toddler was at her aunt's house.
Oh, I see.
And then the aunt, and so I'll say that after. But the parents weren't really raising their kids right. They weren't there for the kids. Yeah, I think still to this day it's problems with drugs and things like that.
Yeah,
jail,
so they weren't like present.
That. Yeah, and I think still to this day, and so but anyways, I'm trying to think how to get in line. The aunt was there, and so she was at the aunt's house and stuff. She would always take care. She's still to this day she takes care of her. And
was she in the backyard when this was?
She was in the
down?
backyard, and before getting to that point, I don't know if you want me to finish. After I saw the dog throw the toddler, so after I seen the legs of the toddler, I was like, "Oh dang, it's a baby!" I got to get in there. And so there was this really tall chicken wire fence.
Yeah.
It was like 7 or 8 feet tall, and I'm not anywhere near 7 or 8 feet tall. And so,
how'd you get over it?
yeah, and that's what I said. and I just somehow I ran and I jumped and I was able to grab onto the roof and throw myself over.
What?
Yeah,
That's
I threw myself
Jackie Chan
over.
movie.
Yeah, like I felt like Jackie Chan that day, and I jumped
Adrenaline,
over it,
huh?
and then all that adrenaline, and I ran to the dog, and I hit the dog because it was just biting and tearing up the baby, the toddler, and I just ran at the dog. I hit the back of its spine, right there, right behind its head, and it let go of the toddler.
Thank God.
And went after me. As soon as it let go of the baby, it went after me. And as soon as it went after me, I was able to put my head back and wrap my arms around its neck. And then I started holding it back like this, and I was trying to get my neck. And then there's this other dog that was trying to get this dog off of it. It was another dog. They were both big dogs, and they're the same mix and everything. And so that one was trying to get the dog off of the baby at first. But once the dog saw that I grabbed this dog, it wanted to go after me. And so it tried to bite me. And so meanwhile, I'm holding this one.
What a mess.
This dog tried to bite me, and I kicked that dog in the face. And then
So you're fighting off one dog and holding the other.
Yeah.
Poor brother stuck in the fence.
Yeah, still stuck in the fence.
Poor zombie brother's back there.
Yeah, zombie brother still stuck on the fence. And so, but yeah, I kicked that dog in the face. It was a good thing I kicked it really hard. I was always playing soccer in high school, so I guess I have strong legs. And so I
Pele'd that guy.
Yeah, I just pretend I was kicking the ball to the other side of the field. And
this is all instinctive, right? In a matter of seconds.
Oh yeah, it was seconds.
So when you kicked that one, he left it alone.
Yeah, that dog just took off crying, just squealing.
Yeah,
and so that's my
this
squeal.
one's still going for the neck.
Yeah, this one's still trying to get after me.
Are you losing your grip at all?
No, like I just
man, you got that kung fu grip.
Yeah, and I was just holding on to a death grip and stuff, and then meanwhile I'm holding on to this dog that's trying to get to my neck.
Where's the toddler at this point?
It's so the toddler was right next to the sliding glass door. Yeah. And the ant was right there too. And so the ant was laying on the ground trying to cover the baby. Yeah. And she was like this over her and trying to protect her. And she had a bunch of puncture wounds all over her forearms and stuff because the dog was biting her. Meanwhile, she was trying to protect the baby.
Oh my God.
And then I look at the baby, like the ant, she's full of blood and stuff. And then I look at the baby, and the baby's just full of puncture wounds all over her head, all over her arms, her body, her legs.
I can't even.
And she still has those scars to this day, And so she's been bullied in school because of it. And so she had a really bad one, puncture wound right here in her eye, and so like on the side right here, and she had a lot of just dark. It almost looked black, the blood in her eye, and she was just pale. She was just pale blue. And she was breathing really slow, and I'm just holding on to the dog, and it's still trying to get at me. And I'm looking at the baby, the toddler, and I'm just praying. I start praying right away.
Is anyone at this point have the ability to call the hospital or anything?
Or no, nobody else
it's
knows.
Just you guys locked up,
other than me and
your own little private.
Yeah, and the woman, she just had so many scratches and puncture wounds all over her body as well. The aunt. And so, but anyways, so I'm holding on to this dog, and I'm looking at this baby. I'm just watching her breathe, and I thought she was gonna die, and she was like pale, and I just started praying for her, and I was squeezing the hell out of this dog. I wanted to kill it. Kill it, and then I just kept holding on to it. And I started squeezing. I started squealing because I knew I was trying to kill it, and I just kept holding on to it, and then. Just praying for the baby. And then finally I see my brother and my zombie brother come up. And so he's like, he looks up and he looks at the fence. He's like, how the hell did you get over this? and then there's
this conversation's going on as you're bear hugging.
As I'm holding onto the dog. Yeah. And so
are you like, can we talk about this later?
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to say. And then and so he says that, and he sees the ladder. He's like, oh wow, put this one. And so he put the ladder right there so get onto the roof, and so he got up, and then he jumps over, and he knows that there's a dog. I'm holding on to this dog, but he knows that the other dog is on the other side of the fence. Like it went to the corner and stuff.
Now, are these dogs? They belong to the.
They belong to the aunt,
and they just turned on her.
They just one of them turned on on the baby, and because the baby
and now her because she got bit too,
and her too, yeah, and
just
so
snapped.
Yeah, just snapped, and the baby would always bump into the dog and stuff, and the dog wouldn't do anything to her because there was a family dog,
Yeah.
you know, and so
this
and she would even be on top of the dog and stuff, and then just that day, just turn on the baby. She bumped into the dog when she was walking in, and the dog was walking out right at the sliding door. He just and then the baby fell, and then the aunt picked the baby up, and as soon as she picked the baby, that's when the dog jumped and pulled the baby out of her hands, out of her arms, and started biting and tearing up her body, you know. And so she's just full of blood and stuff. And then my brother says that, he's like, how the hell did you get over? He gets over, jumps over, and so it takes a lot of cojones to go into there knowing that there's another dog loose in there.
Yeah.
And so my brother goes in, and then he goes through the sliding door, not knowing there's another dog inside, and it's a German Shepherd. And so the good thing is there's a fence. It was in the hallway, but there's like a little gate. You know those little gates?
Yeah.
But those dogs can jump over that thing like nothing, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but he still went in to unlock the door so that way people could start coming in.
And help.
So, yeah, and help. And so people start walking in. He goes in and unlocks the door and stuff. And then they're coming in. I'm holding on to this dog, and they're just see a bunch of random people. I remember one guy with the cane, and so and then he had the cane. He's ready to hit the dog, you know. I got him. And so first people that came up were the ambulance. So the ambulance the firefighters got there real quick, and then they took the baby and in the box, and so in the ambulance and stuff, and they took the baby and stuff, I think, to Visalia, Kauai.
Yeah, Kauai Delta.
And so right away, and then after the fire, it was the police that got there. Is a family friend, and he I'm not gonna say what he did. I just thought it was funny, and and meanwhile I was holding on to the
tell us now.
I'm not gonna say his name.
Yeah.
I'm holding on to the dog, and he pulls out his firearm and he aims at the dog's head. He's like, "You got him?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I got him." And so, but I'm holding on to and so
he was gonna shoot the dog.
No, he just had it. He was just aiming it in case the dog got loose, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And so, because as an officer, you're justifying killing a dog if it's loose and it's not in the right mind.
I see.
And so, but yeah, I just thought it was funny that he did that because I'm right here. And then he's like, "You got him?" I was like, "Yeah, I got him." You can put that away. And so, and then after that, I was there for like anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour.
What?
Yeah, until the dog pound got there. And so that's the reason I was holding on to that dog that entire time.
Man.
And so, and I had the strength to do it. I had all the adrenaline to
Were
hold on to
you a wrestler in high school? Or?
I did wrestling for like half a semester, and I wasn't any good. And so
football?
I preferred soccer.
Oh, soccer.
I preferred soccer. Yeah, I didn't play football.
Because the upper body strength to hold a dog for 40 minutes.
Yeah. And so it was all that adrenaline, you know,
man.
And then we had to do a lot of push-ups and stuff. And my uncle used to make us do push-ups when we got in trouble growing up. So that was...
Thank you, Uncle.
Yeah, Uncle Joe.
Uncle Joe.
Yeah.
Shout out to Uncle Joe, man.
Yeah.
For the upper body.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah, that's true. And so, but yeah, that's what happened. And
so they take her away.
They take her away.
The dog gets to the pound.
Yeah, and then finally the dog. And what's funny is that the guy, you see how big James is.
Yeah.
Or Jim. And so you see how big Jim is, and this guy was bigger than Jim. And
Jim, you're like 6'2", 6'3", right? 6'4".
Yeah.
Oh.
And so I would say he was around 6'4" and just like big.
Yeah.
But he was like chunky.
Yeah.
But he looked like he was a chunky, strong guy. You know,
Yeah.
strong, chunky guy. You know.
80s wrestler.
Yeah, yeah. And so. Was it Butterbean or something? What was his name?
Yeah. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
No, King Kong Bundy.
Oh, yeah.
Remember King Kong Bundy, Jim?
And so like that, and he asked me, "You ready? You ready to let go?"
You're like, I've been ready for 40 minutes, bro.
I've been ready. Just hurry up. And so he finally gets that, that long tube with the.
I just had to pause for a second. I felt like everybody was a little bit too conversational.
Yeah.
While you're doing this.
Yeah.
Like, can we save all questions for later and just get this dog?
Get out my arms.
Your brother's like, how did you get over the fence? And the cop says, are you ready yet?
Yeah.
because we can go another couple minutes.
Yeah.
Dude, I can't even hold my dog down for like
right.
30 seconds without her wanting to run.
They're squirrely.
Yeah, this one was trying to get onto my neck the entire time, and that's why that's why I had the strength, because it was like I knew this dog was gonna kill me if I let go of it, and so that's why I held onto it for dear life, and so finally he gets that net or that little, that circle string around his neck, and I let go, and as soon as I let go, this dog was pulling this big old dude. He started pulling him,
dragging him around.
Yeah, he was like. He was struggling to hold on to the dog, and so he was like that, and so he finally put the dog in.
And the baby's already gone.
The baby's already gone and stuff, and then that.
Now, did you have any bites or scratches?
No, nothing.
Wow,
nothing. And so the dogs had some scratches because I kicked the well, I don't want to say I kicked that dog really hard. Yeah, so I was gonna say I kicked the C out of that dog's face.
Oh, man!
And so after that, and then this dog was just trying to choke it to death.
The second dog, where's he now?
The second dog was somewhere. It was a female.
Didn't attack again.
It didn't attack again after that first kick.
Yeah,
that was that only kick I kicked that dog with, and then the dog inside was still in there.
3 dogs?
There's 3 dogs. So there's one inside, and then there's 2 outside. And then one of them I kicked.
And all big.
They're all big. They're all big dogs.
Wow.
They're not puppies. They're big. They're big dogs. And so German Shepherd, and then the other ones are Boxer, Chow, and German Shepherd mix.
So so let's go to the part where it's said and done.
Yeah.
Now the adrenaline is starting to go down. And you're coming to realization of what happened.
Oh yeah, I was all shaky.
At what point did you realize that you had saved a life?
I didn't know. I didn't know until a few days later, because she was in critical condition.
So you weren't sure if she was going to make it?
Yeah, and I was crying. I mean, I was crying those entire days, and so I didn't even have to go to school. They didn't tell me to go to school or anything. They said, "Oh, you stay home. You stay home."
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And then I stayed home, and I was like, I could still see the toddler, see her, and so.
So the visual was still
her name
replaying.
was Nevaeh. Her name is Nevaeh. Nevaeh. Yeah, it means heaven.
Yeah, I have 2 Nevaehs in my. Oh, that's what it means. I have 2 Nevaehs in my class. You have any Nevaehs at your school? Yeah, we have heaven backwards.
Yeah, heaven backwards. And so, Nevaeh, I didn't know.
Did you ever go to the hospital?
I did 3 or 4 days later, or a week later.
And of course, she's very young, so she may not have recognized you.
She was here at Children's. No, she recognized me.
She did.
She did.
She was here at Children's Hospital, Madera?
Children's. So they had to go to Kauai with the helicopter. So they had to transport with the helicopter from Kauai to the Children's here. And so, because she was in critical condition and stuff. And then a week later, I was praying for her the entire time, and was crying obviously because I remember the baby and stuff. And so we finally get there, and then I get into the room, and then there's a lot of emotions already, because that's where I had one of my cousins, Julia.
Yeah.
And she almost died there. She had an open heart surgery, and she was baby.
She already had some feelings associated to that location.
So, yeah, exactly. And then not only that, my cousin was there. My cousin was 18 months old. My cousin was 18 months old when she died, and she died of leukemia. Wow. And she died of leukemia, of cancer, and she was in that hospital for a long time.
So all that comes flooding back to you.
Oh yeah.
And now you've got a third potential.
Yeah, and so I was just worried, praying, and everything, and then I get there and I see Nevaeh, and she's looking at me, and she starts walking towards me right off the bat.
Oh wow!
And she goes like this to hug me.
She knew.
Yeah.
And had you met her prior to the attack?
No.
You didn't know this child?
And so that's why I think it's very interesting how she remembered me, even though she was like almost passing out. And I guess she was watching me, and meanwhile I'm holding on to this dog.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I had a bunch of tears when I saw her walking. She was walking like normal, like nothing happened. Like she just bounced back, And so and she had her scars
like that.
Yeah, she had a bunch of gauzes everywhere.
Yeah.
And so all over her body and stuff. And then you could see her eye is still
still swollen.
Yeah.
From the bite.
Yeah. And so to this day she still has her eye.
Are you guys still in touch?
No, actually, kind of every now and then. And so, but I actually need to be more more in touch with her and just have
I'd
her
love
part
to
of her
meet
life.
her and have her come share her
that would
story.
be great.
Right? Wouldn't that be cool, Jim? To
Yeah,
hear
no, ask
the
her.
other side of that.
Yeah. And
Well,
then-
I don't know how much she'd remember.
She remembered that, yeah.
Yeah.
So but that might be a good thing to not remember too
Yeah.
much of a traumatic incident. But I do remember you also mentioning that fast forward a couple months later when you graduated,
Yeah.
that they had a special ceremony at the graduation
Yeah.
because of your heroic act.
Yeah.
At what point do you start getting all this attention and go, wait a minute, this
I
is
was gonna
bigger
say,
than I thought?
Yeah.
You get the key to the city or something from the mayor?
Did the news call you?
Yeah.
Yeah. The news called me. I think the same day. It was the same day because I still had the shirt on with the blood. I had the baby's blood on
man.
me, and so and I was in a wife beater. I had a wife beater on, and so I don't know why they call them that, but I think I think I can know why.
My son
so,
asked me about that the other day.
Yeah, and so but anyways, so I was interviewed for the newspaper, and then I think I came out on 2 different news stations. So ABC 30, and then the other one I can't remember what it was. And so
I wonder who the cameraman was
It was before my time.
before your time.
Yeah.
He was
Oh,
there
that
like
would've-
20
that would've-
something
that
years.
would've
How
been a
old,
small-
how old were you?
I was 17, or I think it was 18.
Do you
at
remember
that
what
time.
year this was?
This was 2010. So yeah, I was 17 or
You
18.
were
yeah,
there, right?
I was there, yeah.
2010. Which station were you with at that time?
Probably 47.
Do you
yeah.
recall a story similar to this at all?
It was in Visalia,
But it was in Farmersville.
Farmersville?
Yeah.
No.
Nothing.
Because you
So-
do a million.
But you said it was
stories,
early
so.
in the morning, though.
It was in the morning.
Yeah, I worked nights.
You worked
Yeah,
nights.
I worked
yeah.
nights.
And so that would have been pretty cool.
That would have been really
Yeah.
crazy.
Wait a
Like,
minute.
I remember you.
I recorded you.
Yeah.
So that happens, and that kind of, I'm assuming, would give you this kind of taste of what it's like to save a life,
Oh yeah.
which I can imagine would be sort of exhilarating and empowering to say, "Hey,
Oh yeah.
I have this ability."
Yeah.
And
That's I
Does
always
that
had
lead to the next thing
yeah
for you?
for the military. Yeah.
So
And-
you think that part of going to the military was this idea that you had saved a life and that you'd have an opportunity to do more of that?
Oh yeah, that's exactly it. And I knew that there was gonna be a what do you call it? There's gonna be consequences to that decision as well. There's gonna be the pros and the cons. The pros is I can save somebody's life.
Yeah.
The cons is I'm gonna have to take somebody's life, and I'm gonna have to see traumatic things
And risk your own.
and risk my own life, and then see my buddies dead and see traumatic things like that. you
Now,
know?
did that fear come to light? Did that actually happen at some point where you did see some traumatic things and lose friends?
and combat and stuff. And what's interesting, I didn't lose buddies on deployment. However, I did have buddies that lost one buddy in particular, he lost both of his legs and stuff, and so
in Afghanistan.
And so
Where's he from?
He is actually, I don't know. I think he's in Washington State still, and so but
'Cause we had interviewed a young gentleman here, Fidel Bobadilla,
oh, okay.
who had lost both legs.
That would be
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
What was it? Afghanistan?
Yeah,
as
it
well?
was. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was an IED underneath the truck.
Yeah.
Matt beat.
No, that's the exact.
That would be crazy if this is the guy he's talking
Oh
about.
no,
His
it
name's
is-
not Fidel.
No, this guy's name is Byers. Last name Byers.
Wow.
And so
Yeah, this guy
Byers.
was IUD.
Yeah.
Lost both
Yeah,
legs.
lost
He was
his-
the gunner on top.
He was the squad leader. I think he was the squad leader or the.
Were you present when this happened?
No. I was on when this happened. So this was second platoon. This happened to at first platoon. I was part of first platoon. We were on the main base.
Yeah.
Because first platoon had to stay back, and we had to wait until because they got different people that they sent first, and so first platoon had to stay back on the main base, and so we loved that because they got Xbox, they got all these different things, call home,
Yeah.
and so they got the PX and things like that, stores, and so before you get out of the wire and where that's the real stuff where this happened, I think it was second platoon or third platoon, and so
I always picture like these long roads going from point A to point B,
yeah.
and then along the way you're susceptible to anything.
Oh yes.
Is that what this was?
Oh yeah, that's exactly what happened, and I don't know exactly where it was, but I know that's what happened. There was an IED underneath the vehicle,
Oh, man.
and so the vehicle saved his life because it only hit the bottom part, and so that's why he lost both of his legs, and so it didn't get like his upper body and stuff.
Yeah, where
because
his brain-
it hit the truck, it hit the vehicle. and so all that other shrapnel and stuff, the explosion, and so obviously traumatic brain injury from the explosion, all those things, and then traumatic scene of losing your legs, Yeah. And so so after that, I was just we heard that news, and we were in shock. It was like, hey, this is for real. We can die. And so, and I hadn't thought of it.
Was that your first realization?
I mean, the first realization was when, as soon as we landed on, I think we were in the C-130, or we're in a big old plane, and the ramp drops, and you just feel the air, the heat.
Hit you?
Yeah, and then you see all the Rocky Mountains and stuff, and then I start walking down, and I look at the airport and saw a bunch of, what do you call it, bullet holes everywhere. You got a bunch of holes everywhere from all the rounds that hit. And so I was like, oh, dang, what the hell am I doing? What am I doing here? And it was like, I felt like I was in a movie or in a dream. I was like in a dream. And then once they started talking about, okay, they start giving you all the information and stuff. He's talking about whenever you hear this sound, this siren, it means there's bombs coming. There's bombs coming in. So mortar rounds. And so that
how much time do you have to react?
You gotta go as fast as possible.
So when you hear the alarm, that's the next 10, 15 seconds.
I mean fast.
Man.
And so you gotta get underneath the bunkers and stuff, the concrete bunkers.
Yeah.
And so quick, you could be asleep and you hear that jumping out of the bed, get your rifle and stuff, and
go.
Yeah. And so things like that. And so I was like, and obviously you got the paranoia hearing the sound and stuff. It sounds a lot like the tornado warnings in Texas.
Yeah.
And so that's why when I would hear the tornado warnings, like it just flashback. Oh, there's bombs coming in. And I would look out the window and so expecting bombs and remember, okay, it's tornadoes.
I'm in Texas.
So,
not Afghanistan.
Yeah, not Afghanistan. And so, but yeah, it was, that was the moment. And then the first time I got shot at, I don't know if I'm going too far forward, but
no.
The first time I got shot at, I didn't even know I was getting shot at, And then, because
wait, how did you not know?
I never knew what it sounded like.
Oh, and what does it sound like?
It sounds like snapping. And so you hear like a snap. When you crack wood, you hear a, it sounds like that.
So it's not the big movie pronounced pow sound.
So there's some that goes, you hear like a whizzing, like a zoom.
Yeah.
But when you hear the snaps, once you start hearing snaps, that means the rounds are a lot closer to your head than the whizzing.
Have you been shot at, Jim?
Yeah, remember I told you we were waiting for a shooting over by Fresno City.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, well.
Yeah, we were waiting for them to clear the area, and we heard ricochet go within probably 10, 15 feet from us that hit a power line and it ricocheted off the transformer thing. And they were yelling at us like, we got to go back.
Get
They were
out,
still shooting, yeah.
Did you drop to the ground?
Well, I mean, it wasn't like that. We didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it was a ricochet.
Happened.
It was a ricochet that went off, and it hit the transmitter up there. And so they pushed us back.
Yeah.
They said, you guys go back to the end of the street.
Do you think, now that you've both experienced this, because I haven't, do you think that movies do a little disservice in how they portray it? Because in the movie, it's always a loud, pronounced bang.
Well, it's
and everyone I've ever talked to now with you guys and with a person who survived the mass shooting, they said it was closer to not a bang, but like either
like
a snap or a firecracker.
Yeah.
Or a whiz or like a...
See, that's nothing like the movies.
Yeah.
Like
sometimes you hear in some of the movies that are a little bit more realistic and stuff.
Yeah.
And so you hear like the zoom, and then you hear usually you hear the zooms. I don't think I've ever heard the snaps in a movie.
Yeah.
And so, but the snaps, it means it's a lot closer.
And that's something you learned right away.
Yeah, and I heard that, and I didn't know what it was.
Did you drop?
No, because I didn't know I was getting shot at. There's a sniper out in the field trying to shoot at the guard tower. Or not trying, he was shooting at the guard tower, and me and my buddy were up there, and so we kept this a secret until, and I'll tell you why we kept it a secret, because our platoon sergeant was crazy, Turek, and so. But yeah,
wait, you kept it a secret that you were getting shot at, or that you were up there?
That we didn't know we were getting shot at, because we had to be on guard shift that time, and then we heard that snapping sound, and then I didn't know what that was, and so I looked down. I told my buddy, and which is funny because he's been to Iraq, and so he's been deployed and he's been shot at before. Yeah. So I asked him, "Hey, we're getting shot at, man. I heard this noise," and then we looked down and we see somebody cracking wood, and it sounded just like the snap, and so it was perfect timing, and then we get off our shift and stuff, and we go back to talking and stuff, and again we hear it again, and then it's like, "Hey, bro, I think we're getting shot at." And then I asked him, "Was this hole right here before?" And so I asked him like that. And he said, "I don't know." And so I'm pretty sure we almost got killed. And so we get off shift, and then we're cleaning our rifles and stuff. That was our free time, is cleaning rifles. And so we hear on the radio, "Hey, the guard tower is getting shot at from somebody out in the field." And so me and my buddy heard that on the radio, and he said, "Shut up." He said, "Don't say nothing, because you got to call it out."
Yeah.
And so you
didn't.
You had to call it out, and because we didn't know we were getting shot at, you know. He should have known because he's been deployed before.
Yeah.
And so Avila, shame.
Yeah, let's blame Avila
Love
for
you,
that
bro.
one.
Yeah, it was Avila.
Do we have a wah-wah?
Wah. Oh.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Come on, Avila.
Yeah, there we go.
It's a good thing both of us are the same height, and so we're both short, and so I would always complain about my height. Yeah. I would always complain about my height growing up. Yeah. Because I stopped growing in middle school, and then I just stayed the same height.
5'7", 5'8".
Oh, I wish. It's because I got the stilettos on. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm 5'4".
5'4".
5'4", yeah, with shoes on. And so, because the DMV, they make you have your shoes on. Yeah. And so they added an inch.
You gotta take what you can get.
Yeah. But anyways.
See, the 6'4" guy.
Yeah, that's difficult. That's scary.
Yeah, no,
that's very scary.
I was 5'4" when I was born.
Jim came out 5'4". Was your dad tall?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, 6'1".
How about your mom?
No, she was about 5'5", 5'6". Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's for
man.
Yeah,
right.
She was stocky though, but yeah.
Wow.
6'1".
You're 5'4".
How tall is your brother?
That's funny.
He's about 6'8", 6 feet, 6'1". Yeah.
Yeah. So you're the taller one.
Yeah.
Wow.
All my uncles are over 6 feet.
6'4", 5'4".
Yeah.
Los gigantes.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, the Giants.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're in Afghanistan.
Yep.
You're getting shot at now.
Yeah.
You're losing friends.
So we didn't lose any friends, and so
just the legs.
Yeah, my buddy lost his legs. One guy got shot in the shoulder. Grove, actually, his brother is I think he's a UFC fighter.
Oh,
and
wow.
So,
and how long were you in the military?
I was in for, I think it was 4 years in total. That was 4 years in total, but I think it was like anywhere from 3 years and 4 months or something like that.
And at what point did you say, "I think I'm done with this. I want to move on"?
I met my wife. And I was
in the military.
I was in the military, but my wife, she was in Washington for like a nanny program. And so,
and you were stationed in Washington.
I was stationed in Fort Lewis, Washington. Yeah.
Is that the one with the island? Jim, do you know there's islands in Washington
State?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know there was islands there.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
I think you're talking about, I don't know the name of that base, but that one's a little bit closer to Seattle, I think.
Yeah.
And so, but no, we were on it was all land. And so we didn't have no island or anything like that. But yeah, that's where I was stationed and everything. And with 2nd Brigade, 2nd Division. And just a shout out for 2nd Brigade, 2nd Division, 117 Infantry Buffaloes. 117 Infantry Buffaloes. And so,
Buffaloes.
Yeah, we're the Buffaloes.
You have the patch and.
Yeah, I got them at home and stuff. And so.
The Army, correct?
Army. Yeah. Army Infantry. And so the guys are in the front. And so that's what I wanted. I wanted to be the guy kicking down the doors.
Really?
I only had 3 options, though.
You remind me of something right there. I don't want to forget this. You said repeatedly in your speech that I was not afraid to die.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
I think it was because of my grandfather. And my grandfather was in Vietnam, and he got shot in the face. And so my grandfather got shot in the face, and he actually flatlined when he was in Vietnam. And so when he got shot in the face, he seen this bright light, and then he heard a voice saying, "Come home, son."
Oh.
So wow. I don't talk about this in the book. He says, "Come home, son." I should have mentioned it. And then the third time, "Come home, son." that's when my grandfather responded with, "I'm not ready yet. Let me finish raising my children, and then you could take me whenever you want." And so, and after that, that's when he woke up and he seen the combat medic giving him CPR. So he's above him giving him CPR. And so, and then nobody knew that story other than my grandfather and that combat medic. And so we didn't know that story until after my grandfather had passed away.
Oh, who'd you hear from?
From that combat medic.
How did you find?
And so,
how did you find this combat medic?
The combat medic, he actually went to my grandfather's funeral.
Oh.
I'm not sure how he found out about it.
Yeah.
I never asked my grandma. I didn't.
It was just one of those moments of fate.
Yeah, and so he went there and he ended up telling my grandmother that story. And so when he told my grandmother that story, my grandmother told everybody in the family. And when she told me, I took it and I kept it, you know, and I would share with anybody.
And that was your mindset.
And that was my mindset.
Like, hey, I know I'm going.
Yeah, and I was actually before that. I was a kid, and I was always watching Rambo. You shouldn't be watching Rambo as a kid, but that's how
Rambo.
Yeah, we're watching Rambo and stuff.
Remember Rambo?
Yeah, Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, all those things, all those movies, you know. And so, just all these different movies and stuff. And I had that desire to want to fight for my country, and not mind dying for my country, you know. And so that was my mindset and that was my mentality. And I felt like having the hero's death is the best death I can have.
Yeah.
You know, and that was my mindset growing up. And I was always playing war and stuff. As a little kid, I had that desire to want to be a soldier since a little.
And the other siblings, were they also?
My younger brother, Abraham, he was Army as well.
So he was also influenced.
Yeah, and so he was Army as well. And then my older brother, he said, "I'm not stupid. I'm not stupid."
So
I'm not
which one's the zombie brother?
My older brother.
Oh.
Yeah, he's actually starting his coffee business.
He was like, the fence was enough for me.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go in a different direction.
Yeah, yep. And so after that, and I lost my train of thought.
Oh no, what we're talking about is you met your wife in Washington.
Yes. Yeah.
So how did you were on? So you were around the town hanging out and.
Yeah, I was actually invited to go and dance, and so
nightclub
at a nightclub. And what was interesting is that, so before I met my wife, I was engaged when I was in Afghanistan, and then found out she was cheating on me, and so found out I think it was a week after I got back from Afghanistan.
Oh, that's devastating.
It was after my birthday. It was after my birthday I found out that she was cheating on me and stuff.
And she's back home in Woodlake.
She's back home. I don't know. This was in Seattle, Washington.
Oh. And
this is when I was deployed and stuff. And then the reason I found out is that she was cheating on me is because I found a letter. I found a love note under her bed, a bunch of them. And I read the first one. The first one showed the date, and it was 3 or 4 days after I deployed. And so, it said some very, had some very detailed descriptions of the first time you made me.
Oh,
you know,
man.
And so the guy said that on the love note, you know.
Things you don't want to know. It's like too much information.
Yeah. And so like me, all I was thinking of is going back home, starting a family, because that's what we would talk about: starting a family, having a house, and have kids and stuff, and then getting married, and just this illusion was being built. And so I was thinking it was going to happen, and so I was looking forward to going back home when I was in Afghanistan to go get married and stuff. And then I found this, and I just wanted to destroy her. Like I wanted to kill her. I was going to choke her to death. But the only reason I didn't was because I believed in heaven and I believed in hell. And so I didn't want to go to hell because I knew, or prison, you know, and also I had a lot of respect for her parents. And so I loved her parents and stuff. And so
you just walked away.
I stayed inside her room and I started breaking everything, you know. I started breaking everything. I started throwing everything, ripping things off, apart and stuff. Because I bought her a bunch of stuff. I would send her flowers once a week, sometimes 3 times a week. Like I didn't care if my money was wasted because I felt like I was going to die. So I didn't mind sending flowers to her every week so that way she can feel that I'm still there with her. Yeah. And so I did that with that. I was lovey-dovey and puppy love and like the 50s, you know, like the mindset of the 50s of those, the music that you hear. And so that's my favorite genre, 50s and the 80s and stuff. And so, and I feel like I became like the music I became like the music, that romantic.
I'm thinking
man.
of Oh Donna right now.
Yeah,
right?
Oh Donna.
Richie.
Yeah, exactly.
That one, Jim?
Oh Donna.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, that's what happened. And then I just decided to drive off, without saying too many details, because that way people can buy the book and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was
It's
going to
all
kill
in the
myself.
book, folks.
I was going to kill myself.
So was this your first experience with suicidal thoughts?
This was, I think, I think that was the first.
First
actually, even as a teenager. That's actually one of the questions you asked, and that was a thought when I lost my cousin and then I lost my grandfather, and so I was thinking about suicide, and I was 15, I think I was 14 or 15, and I was started cutting myself and stuff, and then I thought about that before.
Did anyone know about these suicide attempts?
No.
And that's what I find to be most
disturbing.
Disturbing as a friend, as a brother, as someone who's connected to a lot of different people. It's like I'm slowly realizing how many people have contemplated, that thought, and actually followed through to some degree on an attempt. It's a bigger number than you would imagine.
Oh yeah.
And the thing is, your own mindset. I know for me I've never been pushed to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of loved ones around me that I thought wouldn't.
Yeah.
And have been pushed to that point. And
wow.
It's coming out now.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I've thought about it and I've followed through to some degree.
Yeah.
Jim has a very close friend that he grew up with. How long have you known Jesse?
Oh, dude.
Since age 5?
Yeah. No. Since Palm School. So probably since we were 13, 12.
Okay, 12, 13. Yeah. We're now 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's known Jesse this whole time. We don't find out until the podcast, an episode just like this, where Jesse shares about the time he took the gun and the gun didn't work.
Wow.
And then the priest came in to help out. Wow. But I'm looking at Jesse and then I look at Jim and I go, I think Jim's hearing it for the first time because they're longtime friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that may have those stories that aren't ready to share yet.
Oh yeah.
And you included now. Now, did your brothers know about your mental health issues?
No, none of them. I didn't want to share it because I had a lot of machismo. And so the macho man mentality is, hey,
suck
don't
it up.
Share. Yeah, suck it up. Don't share any of your emotions. Don't show any weakness.
And the military doesn't really help on that end because
because they just
survival tactic.
Yeah, and I tell people it's good for survival tactic when you're in the moment, when you're in the scenario or on a mission. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But after you're off of it, after you're done with the mission and you're at home, you're in garrison, you're relaxing.
Yeah. That's
not healthy. And that's why I say about that speech about avoid the oblivion life. And so because of that, and because it'll destroy you inside. And
so after the military, you meet your wife.
Yep.
Is that when you started to become a police officer?
No, it was years later. I never thought I was gonna.
So what was your job right after military?
I was homeless. That was my job.
What?
Yeah. I was looking for jobs everywhere I went.
And
nothing, no
how
calls,
was that
no emails.
with all the military experience that?
I guess they just saw me as a liability because I was infantry and I've been in combat. So the amount of people that join the military is less than 1% of the U.S. population joins the military, and then less than 1% joins the infantry, and then less than 1% actually goes to combat. And
you were all of those.
And I did all those, and that's why I feel like they were trying to protect themselves. That's just me. I just an assumption. Yeah. And so I didn't see myself good for anything other than security jobs because I was shot at and I was comfortable getting shot at, so I can shoot back. And so I've been in multiple firefights, and I talk about that in the book more in details, a bunch of different things that we've been through and stuff. And but I just thought my life was to take the life of the enemy and save the life of the innocent, which is still true to this day, but for the enemy, I have a little bit more sympathy because I know that a lot of times they were raised in a horrible situation where they were brainwashed into believing this garbage, some type of garbage that they that's why they live the way that they live, you know?
Yeah.
And so instead of doing that, I feel God had a different purpose for my life. Instead of killing the bad guy, help save him from going to hell, you know?
Oh, I love that.
And so instead of going right after him, and so, and I actually know of a pedophile. He was a pedophile, and he died, but before he died, he was able to give his life to Christ.
You saw that,
and so
transition,
and I know that's.
Were you the one that introduced him to that?
No. It's just I know who it was. I'm not gonna say who it was or whose family member or anything like that. It's just he did some horrible things to a 9-year-old, or actually a 10-year-old girl, and so and then after that she was traumatized, and she just spoke about it not too long ago, you know.
Yeah.
This years and years later, 30 or 35 plus
finally
years.
Came out. Yeah.
Finally spoke about it.
It takes time.
You know, and then
because there's a shame, like it was your fault, you know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because and then she saw this person as a father figure.
Oh man.
And then the father figure does this because her parents abandoned her completely. Both.
Ultimate
the dad
betrayal
and the mom.
To have the one father figure in your life betray you.
Exactly. And then and so I won't share any more details than that, because then I'll pretty much say who it is. Yeah. And then but he ended up before dying
repenting.
I think a few months before dying, he ended up like started going to church and stuff. He was changed. He was changed.
Was it one of these things where he knew he was passing, or
no, he didn't know.
You know,
he didn't know. And then he started telling his family members. I'm not gonna say. I'm trying to see how I can say it without saying it. But he said, "Please tell her forgive me. Please tell her to forgive me. Please tell her to forgive me."
Ask for forgiveness.
Yeah, and so because he knew what he did.
Yeah.
And so, and then he said, don't hate so-and-so, because he didn't say why, which I feel like it would have been, actually, I don't know, but I feel like that would have really helped the situation years later, you know, but he ended up repenting, you know, and he died, but he was able to repent of his sins and accept Christ into his life before he died. And so it just shows. And then after he died, people would have dreams and visions of seeing him in white.
What?
Yeah, seeing him in white.
They told you this?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, and so it's just a lot of peace, you know.
Resolution with that.
And so, because if you read scripture, the people that are wearing white are the ones that get to go to heaven, you know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so they'll be dressed in white. And so
I thought that was a movie thing for some reason.
Oh no, I gotta look for the scripture and stuff. But yeah, they'll be dressed in white. All the saints will be dressed in white.
Wow.
You know, and so because it signifies the purification. You're purified of your sin. You're washed clean, white as snow. You know, because of the blood of Christ, blood of Jesus. You know. And
so you seem to know a lot in regards to references to the Bible.
Oh yeah.
At what point did you become well-versed or connected to Christ?
So this was years after, actually about almost 2 years after the military.
So you went military, then you went security.
And I always believed in God. And so I always believed in God. I just never served God and intentionally sought God
until the last, what, 10 years, 15 years?
10 years. Last 10 years. And so, and I just started, like I would always pray because I believed in heaven, I believed in hell.
Yeah.
And it was my grandfather and my grandparents that introduced faith in God in our lives.
Would they take you to church? Or?
They would take us to church and stuff. My grandmother would pinch us if we were being quiet. Usually it was my older brother.
James, did you get pinched in church? I think you said that, huh?
Yeah, well, yeah, you get the elbow. You get the little elbow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my grandmother was sneaky. She would go and pinch.
You know what my thing
really
in church
hard.
was, and I bet both of you can relate to this, that you couldn't look at one of your siblings
Yeah.
Because there was something about their face that was hysterical. Only in church.
Yeah.
It was like the forbidden.
Yeah.
Like I look at you at McDonald's, I'm fine. But if I see you in church, you are the funniest face.
Yeah.
Right?
Just both of you start laughing out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. Right? That happened to you and your brother?
No, well, we would always sit on the opposite sides. But my dad,
They knew.
The worst thing that my dad would always do, because my dad was not a regular church guy.
Yeah.
Because we all slept in. We all love sleeping in. It's the Saturday nights that you're out all night, and then my dad's like, "Guess what? You're going to church." And I'm like,
because he knew.
And what's the sad thing is he would be there at 1 o'clock in the morning when we would come in, and all twinkle, you're all messed up, you're all tired and everything, and he'd be like, "I hope you had a fun night because you're going to church tomorrow." So it was like our payback.
He used it.
Give you a chance to repent right away.
And so in church, you're just like that's where the elbow thing came in, because you wanted to fall asleep because you're so tired, or hungover or whatever, So
there's a George Lopez joke, because you've been to a Catholic church, right, Jim?
Oh yeah.
And you know how there's like the holy water.
Mm-hmm.
George Lopez has a joke where you go hungover to church on Sunday and use the water and try to wake yourself up. Have you heard that one?
Yeah.
Totally relate.
I always hear the chocolate bunny. That's what I remember.
That was kind of predatory too, right? The uncle with the chocolate bunny.
Yeah.
So okay, so let's fast forward to where you decided that you were going to try to get it into the police force.
Yeah. So, and then before I even got to the police, I ended up I went to school at Dallas Baptist University.
Oh,
so,
okay.
After the military, I ended up moving to Texas, and
Why
we were
Texas?
there for 8 years. Military friendly, veteran friendly, and so I was like, I want to move to Texas.
Texas.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that's why.
So you've had a Whataburger. The Whataburger.
I only had it once.
8 years in Texas.
Yeah, I only
Texas
had it once.
People, are you
In-N-Out? In-N-Out is better.
In-N-Out.
Yeah.
Jim, have you had Whataburger?
Yeah, yes, and In-N-Out is better. Yes.
Yeah. See.
So is Whataburger
Just not the fries.
No.
I don't like the fries.
Here's the other one: is Taco Cabana. Did you try that one?
No.
So Taco Cabana is also a chain, and it's like Taco Bell, but they have a salsa bar and they sell beer.
Oh, no way.
Right, so you can have but it's still the fast food, and so I love that one.
No, did you go to a Buc-ee's?
Oh yes, I love Buc-ee's.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, which one is Buc-ee's?
It's just a gas station.
With everything.
Yeah, but it's like everything.
It's like a big mall.
Exaggerated everything with over 150 gas pumps.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Tons.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's huge.
I don't remember Buc-ee's. I was in Austin and San Antonio.
Oh yeah.
And where were you living?
We were in Dallas, Fort Worth. So we were in Dallas, and then we ended up moving to Fort Worth towards the end of our stay in Texas. And so,
is that when you became an officer, when you were in Texas?
When I moved to Fort Worth, I moved to Fort Worth because of that. Because I became an officer, I went to the police academy, and it was pretty close. Went to police academy in TCC, and so I think it's West, TCC West. And so, and I was officer in Colleyville, and so for like 4 months.
And at this point, you've already met your wife.
Yeah.
And
Years. Yeah, I mean, we actually. September will be 10 years married.
Oh, so, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah,
what's your name?
Esmeralda.
Esmeralda.
Yeah.
Congratulations. 10 years. That's no easy feat, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Marriage is challenging.
10 years, and then
so
together
then
11. When you
were there and you became an officer, you said in your speech that you shared at the church that it kind of changed you. In what way?
Yes. What I mentioned earlier, how I just started having paranoia towards people. I didn't trust anybody.
Because you've seen the worst of
I've seen the worst of people, and that's why I have a lot of respect for first responders. And so because they have to deal with this, with these type of people daily, you know? And so... And still
learn how to function in society.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Without treating everyone.
Oh, yeah. And that's why I'm always talking to them. I'm always talking, hey, were you a veteran or first responder? Anybody that looks like they were military or first responder, I'm like, hey, were you in the service? I see tattoos. I'm like, hey, were you in the service? And so I'm always talking because I know that I'm probably one of the only people that they're going to be able to speak to and
would understand.
And they can understand, you know. I mean, I was an officer 4 months, but it didn't take long for me to say, nope, I need to get out of this because I was changing. I was changing. I didn't have no time with my wife and my daughters.
Yeah.
Main thing was my daughters because they're little babies, you know, they're little ones. And I was like, I'm not going to be doing this for the rest of my life. And so that's the reason I got out of the military, so I can spend time with my wife and my daughters. At that time, we didn't have children, but my future kids, you know. And so, and I said, no.
And I'm sure she noticed, right? Esmeralda
oh,
was
yeah,
like,
she
hey,
noticed. Yeah. I wouldn't even go out
you're not the Lino that I met.
I wouldn't even go out to the park. Like, we would go to the park, but everything was timed. How you guys were mentioning about one of the guys that was checking his watch the entire time in the interview. And so that's how I was as a police officer. And I was, okay, I got to go this time so I can get at least 6 hours of sleep. And so I'm always looking at my watch the entire time, looking at everybody. And so... And
everyone's a suspect.
Everybody's a suspect. Everybody's a pedophile, a possible pedophile. And so that was my mindset. That was just, I wasn't thinking about, hey, I need to talk to this person because this person looks depressed, you know?
Yeah.
And so I stopped. Yeah. And I was like, man, I need to change something. And so I decided I need to get out of this. That, and also I had this deep gut feeling I was going to get killed as an officer.
Really?
The same gut feeling I had when I was in
Afghanistan. Dreams, or was there?
No, it was just I just had this gut feeling that I was going to get killed on a traffic stop at night, and so
that's very specific.
Very specific, and the same gut feeling I had when I was in Afghanistan that we were going to get ambushed and stuff. I won't say all those details, so that way you guys can buy the book and stuff.
Yeah.
And so the same feeling that I had it again as a police officer, but this time I was going to get killed. And so
you trusted that,
and I had it when I was in the police academy, and then after that, and what's interesting is before I even became an officer, my mom had a dream. Love you, Mom. My mom had a dream that I was shot in the face as a police officer. This is is years before I even became a police officer. I was going to school at this time to be a PE teacher. And that's when I got my degree on my bachelor's degree.
Oh, so you were in education?
Yeah. So I never became a teacher. I was a sub, and I said, nope, not being a teacher anymore. And so, so I respect, that's another reason why I respect teachers a lot too. And so that's a lot.
How much of a chance did you give it?
Nothing. I didn't even become a teacher. I was just a substitute. I became a substitute. I got my degree and everything.
I remember you sharing a story that you got reprimanded for making a kid do push-ups.
I was making I think it was 3 or 4 kids do push-ups. I started making them do push-ups because they weren't listening to me. I said, hey, you guys do push-ups. Don't stop until I tell you to stop. And so they're doing push-ups, and the teacher comes in. It's like, hey, why are they doing push-ups? It's like, because they weren't listening. So, hey, that's considered hazing, man. You could get in trouble for that. And so I said, what? That's discipline. It's like, that's why these knuckleheads act the way that they do. Say, I know, but it's just how the rules are. And I was like, oh shoot, that was one of the main reasons I was like, I'm gonna end up getting fired or sued if I become a teacher because I'm gonna make kids do push-ups. And so that's why, nope, I need to get out of here. And so that's why I respect you guys. Yeah, and
he was all doing military. He was pulling the military.
Yeah, and it was and this was during PE. It's PE class, so you would imagine it would be okay because it's PE. Yeah. And so, but they all have to do it, and so I should have just made all of them do it. And say it's
where was the school at that you were? Was this in Texas or was it?
This is in Texas, in Dallas. Yeah. And so after that I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do this. And I was like, what I want to do is the reason I want to be a PE teacher was because I'm sure you guys have the same reason, is because I want to be a mentor. I want to be a mentor to those that don't have a good mentor in their life. Yeah. And the father figure. Have at least an example of how you're supposed to be treated, you know? Yeah. And I wanted to be that person. I want to be that mentor, that role model. And so that's why I want to be a PE teacher. Yeah. And to keep students away from committing suicide, because I was thinking about suicide when I was a teenager. Wow. You know, and so I can relate with a lot of different things of
and you can kind of maybe see the signs better than.
Oh yeah, and then acne and stuff, and I know how stressful it is to have acne on your face. Yeah. I had a ton of acne on my face, and I was just very stressful. Very self-conscious and stuff. And then when you watch the garbage that I was watching, because I had a horrible porn addiction growing up, ever since the kid, when I was a child, and the babysitter touched me and stuff.
That set you on a whole nother path.
That destroyed my innocence, you know. And so, and I understand, that causes self-esteem issues because you're like introvert and you don't. Not saying all introverts are like that and they're watching that stuff. It's just you become so ashamed of yourself because you know what you're doing, you know?
Yeah.
And so, and I forgot what I came into this, but anyway.
You're talking about trying the police officer thing,
yes.
walking away after 4 months.
Yeah. And
what did you try after that?
Oh, that gut feeling. And so, and then my mom had another dream after that when I became an officer.
Yeah.
That I was shot on the traffic stop. And she didn't tell me this until after I got out of being a police officer.
Oh.
And so once
she didn't want to discourage you.
Yeah. And so that's why I got out of being a police officer. And she told my wife that dream that was on a traffic stop at night. And I got shot in the head. And that's that's the gut feeling I had that I was going to get shot in a traffic stop at night. And that night or that day I was supposed to start night shift was the day I quit.
Oh.
So I quit that day I was supposed to start night shift.
And that would have been it right there.
Yeah, who knows?
Did you tell Mom, hey, Mom, listen, next time you have a dream
I did tell her
where I might lose my life, can you let me know
just in case
before I quit?
Yeah. And so, but yeah, that's what happened. And so and
my mom's the opposite. She calls me right away.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, are you okay? Yeah. And then she'll warn me about things that I've never done. You're never going scuba diving. What? I haven't. Mom, it's 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Promise me. Yeah. You will never go scuba diving in the Pacific Ocean.
That's funny. All the details.
Yeah. And I'll be like, yes, I promise. Can I go to bed now? Yes.
That's funny.
So,
but yeah,
opposite.
And so I was that time with family and that gut feeling as well. And I feel that truly saved my life because, I mean, not that I would ever know, but I have a friend that he told me that his brother-in-law had that same gut feeling, but he didn't listen to that gut feeling. And I feel that gut feeling is God's warning you of something to come. Hey. And so, and he didn't listen to that gut feeling that he had. He was going to get killed. Yeah. And he got killed on a scenario. He got killed out on a call. And so,
but he had shared that with someone.
He shared that with his wife. I think he shared, I can't remember who else he shared it with, but the buddy or the brother-in-law shared it with me. Yeah. And he's a friend of mine, and he shared that with me, and he told me, I'm glad you listened to that gut feeling because I feel that God's keeping you from harm. You know?
Here's the distinction, and Jim, chime in on this. There's a difference between a gut feeling that comes once in a while as opposed to constantly feeling as if you're going to be, like something's going to happen to you. And I think that's where people get a little confused.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because if I have a friend who in every scenario says there's a chance I might die here. To me, that's different from this specific scenario. I feel that feeling, but not in others. Right now, I feel like it's a justification for paranoia. Yeah. Like, Lino, watch out. Yeah. Don't go to that podcast.
Oh, yeah.
What? Yeah, because that right? Yeah. And Lino, don't go to McDonald's. And Lino, right? As opposed to, hey, in this particular case, I feel it, but maybe not here or here. We have to find that distinction, right?
Oh, yeah. The more details that are in your gut feeling, then
the better chance.
Try to listen to that.
Have you ever dodged a bullet that way, Jim? Where like you felt something and then didn't follow through, and like
I mean, we always feel something similar, yeah. But I mean, nothing,
and it played out. And you're like, ooh, I'm glad.
Nothing that traumatic, you know, to know like, but no, I mean, I do remember though, and this is weird. I've had dreams of dying in my sleep.
Oh wow!
Like falling, and then you wake up.
Oh yeah!
Before you hit the ground.
Yeah, and I remember telling my mom when I was a kid, what does that mean? And she's like, oh well, you survived, you woke up, you know, whatever. And I always heard that if you died in your sleep, you could die in real life. I don't know. Yeah, you did. But no, never a scenario that.
My mom had a dream book. Yeah. Shout out to Gloria Racy. I don't know if you still have this book, but she had a dream book that you could look up these dreams and it would define, it would interpret them for you. And
I don't know. Definition of the dream?
Yeah, you'd look, falling out of a building, and you can find that in page 32. Yeah. There was a table of contents. Swimming underwater with a mermaid, and you look that up.
You know, but you know the answer to all of them. You die.
Yeah.
You die.
Yeah, that's why I was going to get to that. I was like, Mom, why would you share this with a 9-year-old if you know that all of them lead to death? Yeah. So I thought I was dying, you know. Funny. For every mom, I had a dream that my teeth were falling out.
Yeah.
Was it all of them?
Yeah.
Let's look at
It means money.
She'd pull
This
out the
means
dream
money.
book. Nah, you're dying.
Yeah.
And then you think it'd be good. She'd be like, Mom, I had a dream with a mermaid. Oh, mermaids.
Yeah.
It says that you're gonna run into some riches and then you're dying.
What does it say about eating your spaghetti tomorrow night?
Right? They were
You're gonna eat it still.
Why?
Kind of like Waterboy with the mom.
Yeah.
It says it's
you ain't
from
playing
the
that
devil.
foosball.
From the devil.
Everything's from the devil.
Is everything the devil to you, mama? Yeah. My grandmother had the same book.
The dream book, right?
The dream book, and I would always look at them.
And then she'd light a candle for you.
Yeah.
So okay, so you the police thing's not for you.
Yeah.
How do you eventually get to? You told me there was a time when you were just in a dark place.
Oh yeah. So that dark place was actually before I became an officer and before I graduated, which actually I was surprised I got cum laude when I graduated from Dallas Baptist
congratulations.
University. No, thank you. For me, that's a huge accomplishment because I didn't think I was ever going to go to school.
Yeah,
college.
You mentioned you're like, I didn't want to read. I didn't want books.
And so I ended
That was
up.
the reason I went to the military. I wanted action. I didn't want classroom.
Exactly.
And then here I am back.
Yeah, and then I graduated, and then I got cum laude, and then also I actually wrote my first book during summer vacation when I was in, I think I was junior in Dallas Baptist University.
Wow.
And so I finished my first book then.
What encouraged you to say, I'm going to record this?
So what encouraged me was the first time I ever shared my testimony with anybody, the first time I ever shared my story with anyone.
Yeah.
It was at Kohl's in Visalia.
I've been to that Kohl's.
Yeah, in the restroom. And so the first time I ever shared my story was there. And so what's interesting, before this happened.
Wait, are you like at the urinal? You're like, hey, check this out.
No,
Like,
I was at the urinal. And so.
Okay, so let's talk about it for a second.
Yeah.
Do you have rules? Some guys have rules. Like.
Look forward, do your business, leave.
And not talk.
Yeah.
Now with friends and stuff, we'll talk or whatever, right? But there's always this rule that if it's a stranger, that talking can be interpreted like, wait, can you wait till I'm done?
Or nice watch.
It's the basic grunt, like, what's up? Well, hey.
And that's it. Keep it short. Look straight ahead.
Yep.
So I want to hear how this.
Howdy. Yeah. And so,
What's going on?
Yeah.
No, here's a funny one too. I don't know if this ever happened to you guys, but there's multiple urinals, right?
Oh,
so you pick one here, and they come right next to it.
Yes.
Like, bro, there's a whole row.
And then it starts splashing on your shoe, and you feel it. And
no, that has to be. That's an etiquette. There has to be an etiquette rule in there, right?
Yeah.
Now at my school, check this out. And I guess I don't understand it because I'm from an older generation, right? But at our school, our kids have been asking for a long time to have a is it a partition? Is that the thing that separates each urinal from the other? Because they're just all out in the open next to each other.
Oh, yeah.
But I kind of grew up with that, so it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
So when I would go to the restroom at the school, the urinals would always be wide open. I'm like,
Fresno State football games.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Everyone's pissing in a
big trough.
A big trough, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a free-for-all.
Yeah.
Just go in there.
Just don't eat the ice.
But half of
Don't
them
eat
are
the
drunk,
ice.
right? Half of them are drunk. Yeah. So there's full conversations.
No, but you're like directly peeing across from another grown man, eye to eye, because he's on the other side of the trough.
Hey, how's that first?
How's it going? How's it hanging?
It's good for half. Good for half. Yeah. Dog's looking good this year.
Yeah.
Love that quarterback.
Yeah.
So you're in Kohl's.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right.
You start a conversation in the restroom.
Yeah.
About.
And so my wife and I got to tell the first before this happened because something was drawing me to, or someone was drawing me to go to Kohl's. I didn't hear a voice. I didn't hear God's voice or anything. I know it was God drawing me there. But my wife and I were laying down, watching movies, relaxing in pajamas, cold out. It was January 31st, I think. And so it was cold outside. They were about to close at Kohl's. And I had this feeling that I had to go to Kohl's. I didn't know where, I didn't see anything I was going to buy. I didn't have money to spend.
There's no sale?
There's no sale, nothing. And I just felt like I had to go to Kohl's.
Yeah.
And so I didn't think twice about it. I just told my wife, hey, let's go to Kohl's. And then my wife said, okay. Normally she'd be like, no, we're relaxing. Let's relax and watch a movie. And so she said, yeah, we get dressed, go to Kohl's. And then my wife's looking at clothes, and I go straight to the restroom. Usually I use the restroom at home. And so I walk in. As soon as I walk in, I see somebody at the sink, like crying and washing their face. I'm like, oh, that's weird. And so I go to the urinal, taking care of business, you know. And then I turn around. He's still crying. He said, you okay, man? And I was start fishing up. And then I start washing my hands. What's going on, man? You okay? He's like, no, man. No, man. He's crying. I say, what's going on? He's like, I was about to kill myself, man.
You just said it like that.
Yeah. I was about to kill myself, man, because he was shaking. And I had the blade right there in the stall. And so he looks at me, I got the blade right there in that stall right there. And so I was about to slit my wrist open and kill myself in there. And so after.
Did he work there? Or
No. And so he was homeless. And a 17-year-old. 17-year-old. And so, and I asked him, you know Jesus? He said, yeah, all-powerful, all-knowing, omnipresent, the Son of God, the Messiah. And he said, I know because I'm Satanist. And he showed me his tattoos, 666, on his knuckles.
What?
Yeah. And so I asked him, okay, well, you know Jesus, but have you ever repented of your sins and accepted Christ as your Savior? He said, no, man, he'll never forgive me. I got the number of the beast on my hand. And I said, well, Jesus says the only unforgivable sin is the blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. And so if you wholeheartedly repent of your sins and accept Christ as your Savior, He'll save you, man. Do you want to make that decision tonight? And so and he said, yeah. And so I shared my story. With him.
Right then and there.
Right there in the restroom. All this was in the restroom. We didn't go outside and then talk outside.
He said, yeah.
And he said, yeah. And so I shared my testimony.
Were you a little shocked, though? Like, oh, that worked? Or you just felt it?
I was just in the flow. I wasn't thinking about anything other than I need to save this person's life and share the gospel with them. And this was the first time I ever did it. And so the first time I ever shared my story was with this 17-year-old Satanist. So 17-year-old, you guys know, stubborn.
Oh, they know everything.
Yeah, they know everything. And then you got Satanists, you got anti-God. And so you have this 17-year-old Satanist, anti-God, stubborn, anti-God person that's about to kill himself that night, moments before you get there. And all you do is share your story with him, how Jesus saved your life from that dark place that you were in because all the PTSD, marital problems, and just the shame that you were in. Yeah. And so, and all this just rage and all this depression built up inside, not ventilating, not talking about it. Had that machismo inside, and so, and I shared all that stuff with them, and pretty much everything that's in this book I shared with him. That inside the restroom, we were in there for like an hour, and he ended up accepting Christ that night. He was going to kill himself, and his name was Xavier, or is Xavier. I'm not sure if he's alive still, and haven't heard from him ever since. I gave him my number. He gave me his, supposedly. And so I called and I kept trying to find him. He said, no, we don't know anybody by that name. And so, yeah. And so I just, that's the reason I said, well, I can't have an hour conversation with everybody. And so I'm not going to be able to save as many people as I can if I put it in a book. And so I said, I would really like to write a book and put my story in a book. And I told my wife that for years. And I think 3 years later after I shared my testimony with them was when I actually wrote the first book.
And that was the one that talked about the story.
Hope for the 22. Yeah, Hope for the 22. And then PurposeDriven Pain.
Is Xavier in there?
No, I didn't talk.
That would be the preface, right?
Yeah. And so I wish I would have put it in there, But somebody told me, don't worry if you don't put everything in there because it gets a talking point to where something that's not in the book.
Yeah.
And so that's something that's not in the book. It says it's VIP. No, I'm just kidding. And so, but no, it's I like to share it with people whenever they ask me, what made you want to write a book? It gives me the
that's
opportunity.
You're giving me the chills right now with the whole Kohl's and
that's like a battle.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You were set up. It's almost like you were set up to prove that your superior dominates to be able to save this kid's life like that, in a way to where, I mean, I wouldn't say most people because I don't want to speak for them. Most people would be like, well, if you're a believer, you'd be like, well, I tried.
Yeah.
He's already anti-God anyway. So, oh, well, good luck, buddy.
Oh, yeah.
But as a Christian or a believer, you'd be like, I'm going to war. I'm going to try to fight and win this war right now.
Oh, yeah. And that's why I always had that desire since I was a little kid to save lives. But I didn't know it was from suicide. And so I was always thinking about wartime or firefighter or things like that, And then, but that was the first time I ever shared my story, and that was the first time I ever that I know that I was able to save somebody from suicide. And so, in the first book, Hope for the 22, I know that I was able to save a marriage because the husband read the book. And so, and he told me this, and that's how I know.
How did you meet the husband?
He was a correctional officer, and so is his wife. And so I actually met the wife, and she was pissed off at him. And they were going through just a horrible marriage, and they actually had divorce papers signed and everything.
Written up.
And they didn't. The only thing was left is to take it to court, and they just had it there laying on the counter. They never did anything with it. And then I came up to the door. This was after I got out of being a police officer, because I started knocking on people's doors because I had this book finished, Hope for the 22, but I wasn't doing anything with it. And
how would you choose whose door you were going to knock on?
Every door. I was knocking everybody's door. I was a salesman. I was like a salesman of hope. And so I was in dope dealing. I was hope dealing, And so, that. And so I was knocking on doors and say, hey, I know it's kind of random, but I wrote these books to help anybody going through this, and this, what I mentioned earlier. And then, or the loss of a loved one. And so, and I'm actually finishing up my second book. I told them, I would tell them, I didn't have it finished at that time. And so, and I'm finishing up a second book as well. And so, and I said, oh, okay. And then that's when the wife opened up when I said marital problems. And she said, oh, my husband needs to hear this. And so, and then I told her up front, I said, before you pray for God to change your husband, pray for God to change you. And I told her just straight up like that. I said, I don't mean it to sound bossy. It's just my wife did that, and she started treating me nice when I didn't deserve it. When she started doing that, I felt like crap. I felt convicted. I was like, man, I got to change how I'm treating my wife.
Yeah.
Or else you continue being angry at each other, you're going to keep fighting, Yeah. But if one of them submits
and breaks that
and starts treating the other person the way they're not supposed to be treated because of how they're reacting or how they're acting, you feel like, what's going on? And then you want to make a change. And that's what my wife did with me. She would pray, instead of God change him, we saw a message at one of the churches in Texas, and they said, instead, it was Jimmy Evans, I think it was his name, Pastor Jimmy Evans. And so he does a marriage conference, and he's really good. And so he said, instead of for asking God to change your husband, your spouse, ask for God to change you first, because you may think you have it all together and that you're perfect. Yeah. But Jesus says anyone that says they don't sin is a liar. And so he says that. And then he says, so pray for God to change you first. And so my wife started doing that, and I explained that to her, to this correction officer, and she just stayed like that.
Now this door-to-door thing, is this Wood Lake? Is this Farmersville?
This is in Texas. This is in Texas, in Fort Worth. And so it was after I got being a police officer, I had to make money somehow, and so I started selling the book.
And how did you do the whole publishing? And
so the first book, I went through a publisher. And so I went to the publisher.
You submitted, and
I submitted,
agreed
and then
that they wanted to.
Yeah, and then they agreed partially, and so they didn't tell me that they took things out of the book, and so they took a bunch of stuff that I talk about in there.
Oh, the editor.
They took out a bunch of stuff that I was talking about, the pedophiles in Afghanistan. When Obama put out rules of engagement, you can't engage the pedophile or the Afghan local police or the Afghan National Army if they're sexually assaulting or raping the boy, because what they have in the culture in Afghanistan is they call them chai boys. So it's this pretty much a child. It's a boy that they use for sex, and so they're raping this boy because that's what they do. That's part of their culture.
What?
And that's where the rules of engagement in Afghanistan. And so I don't know if it was Islam, whatever it was, but it's just obviously filthy and disgusting, and they would use them for pleasure, the boys for pleasure. And that's why they would do that stuff. And then we said, we're not going to deal with that. We're going to kill anybody that does that to a boy, to any child. And so, because he said, if anyone interferes, Obama put this out, if anybody puts this out, or kills this this person, this adult, this male adult that's doing this to this boy, they're going to be thrown in prison. You can't interfere with their culture, you know? And so there's actually a military man that actually killed one of the Afghan local police or Afghan National Army that were doing that to the boy, and they got thrown in military prison. And so I spoke about that in the book, and then they took that out. I didn't know until after I published the book and then noticed it, and I was like, I told my wife, I said, because I trusted that they're going to put everything in there and just do like the
Did they say
quotations and all that, quotation marks and all this, or just what do you call it?
The grammatical
stuff. And so I just trusted them, you know, but they took it out. They took it out, and then bunch of corrupt things I saw in the government, and so the military government,
things that you witnessed firsthand.
Yes, that I saw, and then I connected.
What would you say is the most corrupt thing that you felt?
I think that the rules of engagement that Obama put out, and then that, and also we lost. I can't prove it, right? But we lost connexes. So connex, those big old metal trains that they have on the big old ships, and so every company had lost one connex filled with ammunition, with uniforms, with firearms, military, like U.S. military firearms and ammunition and stuff. And then we get back from Afghanistan, and then on the news, like months later, I see ISIS starting to pop out of nowhere, and they have white Toyota pickup trucks and all these U.S. uniforms and ammunition and firearms. We see all these things, and like I'm paying attention to this. I'm like, and then we would provide white Toyota pickup trucks for the Afghan National Army and the Afghan local police.
Yeah.
Specifically, it was white pickup trucks that all these ISIS guys were driving around, and I was like, how they get that stuff?
Yeah,
you know. And
so now you exit the military.
Yep.
You're done with that, and now you're a full-time author.
Yeah.
And you're going door to door.
Yeah.
Sharing your word.
Oh yeah, and so and then the correctional officer. That's where I was, and that's a huge rabbit hole I went into. But anyways, and so she ended up buying the book. She said, "My husband's going to retreat. I need him to read this book," and she bought it from. And then months later, I was finishing up the second book, and I finally finished it. And months later, I go and knock on her door again to let her know, hey, I finally finished the second book. And so I knock, and I see the husband there. They're moving stuff, and the husband waves. Or the wife waves, and then the husband's like, "Who's that?" And then she said, "Oh, that's the author." And so, and then he's like, "Oh, hey." At first, he was like, "Who's this?" And and then right as soon as he found out, that's when he said, "Hey, how you doing?" And so we started talking. And that's when he shared with me
before he met you.
Yeah, and so that's
your story.
Yeah, and so that's why he shared with me, "Hey, man, like your book really saved my marriage." And that's what he told me.
Wow.
He said, "It saved my marriage." I can't remember if he said it saved his life, but I know he said it saved his marriage. And so, because he said we connect a lot in what you've been through. And so, but yeah, I still have his contact info. Actually, I got to get in contact with him. And so, but yeah, I had finished the second book. And that's another thing I was going to say is that the second book I actually finished, no, I started 3 days after. So the reason I wrote the second book was because my wife and I lost our first baby. And so, like, I've been to Afghanistan, been shot at, and I've been through all these traumatic scenes of the baby full of blood and stuff, and seeing my cousin die in my uncle's arms and my aunt's arms of leukemia and bleeding out and things like that. And so, seeing all these traumatic things, but for me, it's very traumatic, and it didn't compare to holding my dead baby on my hands. And so that night we lost.
Stillborn?
No, it was actually, the baby was miscarriage, and so it was a miscarriage, and so the baby was 9 weeks, and so it was tiny little baby, and so it was on Mother's Day 4 years ago, and I was just pissed off and angry, and it was at 11:50 p.m. when this happened, and so I was pissed off at God, and I was angry at God, and I was like, why'd you allow us to go to this, God? Like, you couldn't wait 10 more minutes? Like 10 more minutes so my wife can enjoy Mother's Day for the rest of her life. And so, but anyways, I was angry, and I felt God asking me, "Where's your hope? You know where your baby is." And I was like, okay, God, I know. And when this happened, I was at the hospital inside the car because I couldn't go inside because of stupid COVID restrictions, all that BS. I couldn't be inside.
So this was 2020.
Yeah, and so I couldn't be inside with my wife. And she had the baby in a napkin.
Delta? You guys are Kuwait?
No, this was in Texas still.
Oh, Texas.
And this was right before I graduated, actually. And right before my wife had to take an exam. It's like a really difficult exam for occupational therapy assistant. And but anyways, it was at the hospital there on Mother's Day, and then they told me you had to. Oh, excuse me, sir, careful. And then you had to wait in your car, and there's nobody in the waiting room. So, are you serious? And I remember when I told you guys I wanted to kill my ex-fiance.
Yeah.
And I wanted to kill everybody in that hospital. And those were some thoughts that were going through my head because I just lost my baby, and my wife had the baby in a napkin inside her purse. And they told me I couldn't be with my wife. And I said,
man.
And I don't know if you ever watched John Q. With
Denzel Washington.
Yeah. And that's pretty much what I wanted to do is you're going to allow me to be with my wife. And so, because I had my farm, and I was very close to doing something that was going to either get me thrown in prison or get me killed. I know the enemy was going after me and my wife. And
what do you think kept you from?
My faith in God, and knowing that, and I was Christian this time, and I still had those thoughts in my head,
Yeah.
And so, and I had to go inside the car, and I was waiting, and I was praying, I was angry, I was hitting everything in the car, and I just started praying. I said, why God, and then I just felt God tell me those things. Where's your baby? You know where your baby is? And I was like, okay, God, I know. What do you want me to do? And I just felt God was telling me, you're going to write a book. You're going to help people drowning in their depression. You're going to share the same hope that you have in my son with those that don't know my son. And so, and that's why, and the reason I did the book cover design the way I did, I don't know if that's a good...
Purpose-driven pain.
And the reason I did that book cover design like that, where this person's drowning in the sea of depression and slowly dying, that's why he's skin and bone. And
that book was written by both you and your wife.
Both of us, yeah. And
so she shares her side of it.
Yeah, she shares her side of it as well. And so, we talk about all the things, all the anxiety. It's just a rough, very rough time, And that's when I just felt God tell me, you're gonna write a book, and you're gonna help people. You're gonna help people, and
here you are.
And I started writing 3 days after we lost our baby. And it was, in a way, it was therapy for me because I was ventilating every time I was writing what had just happened 3 days ago. I was crying, and so I was crying.
It's a different pain,
yeah.
We lost twins. I don't know if I ever shared that with you, Jim. It was very early on. I don't remember how many weeks.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, it's a different pain.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's your babies,
Yeah.
You're waiting for you're imagining your babies crying, and you're comforting them. You're changing the diapers. They're walking. They're crawling. They're saying "dada" or "mama." You're imagining all these things, and then your baby's taken from you. You're like, I can't do anything to get you back, And so, but God was reminding us, hey, your baby's okay. Your baby's okay.
And then sometimes He provides new life.
Yeah.
I think Maddie was right after the twins.
Oh yeah.
And then you had your daughter.
And we had our rainbow baby as well. They call him rainbow baby. And so
rainbow baby is a term for what?
For miracle baby. It means miracle baby.
Oh.
And so it's not California rainbow, it's a miracle, but God's rainbow. Yeah. And so no, I like to mention that. And so they try to defile God's covenant. And so and miracle baby. And that's what it means, miracle baby, the rainbow baby. And so her name is Elena. And so it means bright light.
So you have bright light, and then the other daughter is also light.
Alina.
Alina means
so Elena what? And Alina. So Elena means bright light, and Alina means beautiful light.
Beautiful.
And
light.
so we got two little lights at home.
They do light up the home, right? In a different way. Do you ever notice that, Jim? Like, you have your home, right? Mm-hmm. And it feels good because it's you and your wife, right? It's your home, and then when you bring in a third party, this third party, but your first newborn. It changes right? Doesn't it change the
100%?
Like all of a sudden the house is warmer, and it feels like it's the true stamp of a home to have the presence of a child.
It's a guest that won't leave.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's-
And then you start to see,
Yeah.
right? You remember the first time you started to see toys?
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
We have toys?
and Leslie always hates, my wife always hates me when I tell these stories, but I've documented my wife's pregnancy all the way through until the birth. And then,
Oh, wow.
and then
That's beautiful.
The first McKinley, I didn't do it for Kindle though. So we have 2 kids.
Sorry,
Wow.
Kendall.
So,
Is there a, well,
yeah, no, I don't want to.
sorry, Kendall.
But so we were literally reading how to wash McKinley when we brought her home, like how to give her a bath because we didn't want to
Yeah.
hurt her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so we were reading a book
Lot
at
of
the same
anxiety.
time we were trying to do it. And I have that on video, and it's so funny
Wow.
going back and looking at it. And the funny thing is, as a parent, I could kid you not, and I cannot stand this artist because of it. And I don't hate her because of her songs, but Sheryl Crow would always sing "In the Eyes of an Angel" or what's that?
That was Sarah McLachlan.
Yeah, McLaughlin, yes.
Yeah.
And that commercial of with the cup of with the price of a cup of coffee, you could save one of these children in Africa.
Oh,
or
I thought
whatever.
it was the pets,
No.
the battered
No way.
pets.
No, it was
the one-eyed cat.
It was these kids that were homeless.
Oh,
Yeah.
And it was
man.
showing these kids that were starving and
Yeah.
stuff, and they were using maybe it was a different song, but I'm relaying it to her.
Yeah.
I'm bawling.
The eyes
Yeah.
of an
I'm
angel.
watching these poor kids that can't
Yeah.
even have a meal, and I got one that's been blessed that's in there sleeping safe and sound.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God. But as a father, before I
Yeah.
would like change the channel. I don't even
Yeah.
care. We move on,
Yeah.
move on. But now as you get older and you
Oh,
have
yeah.
kids, you're like, oh man, I'm gonna, you start swallowing your tongue. And,
Yeah.
Opens up a different part of your heart.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. But then we have friends now are empty nesters.
Yeah.
So now that warm feeling of knowing that there's kids and noise, it's not there anymore. Now it's just you and her.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, it's quiet.
Yeah.
And then you get that sensation of like emptiness.
Yeah.
Like, but before it was when you were single or married,
Wow.
when you were newlyweds,
Oh, yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So,
Wow. Okay.
That's
So
a huge difference.
you're now at the point where you are a full-time author and you also do speaking engagements.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I do public speaking events as well. And so I'll be speaking actually, it's called The Guardian or
Guardian?
Guardians. And so
Is that here local?
it's actually, I think it's, I keep forgetting where it's at. I think it's somewhere near Paso Robles and stuff.
Okay.
And so I'll
And
be
people
speaking with
find
them.
you through your book and then reach out to you?
Yeah. And so social media.
Is there a website too?
Facebook and Instagram. No, I don't have no website or anything like that. I just have my social media accounts like
Okay,
Instagram and
we're going to
Facebook.
connect all those links. Anyone out there who would love to hear the entire story, because there's a lot of details that are written in the book itself that we didn't get a chance to share, please go to our description under our YouTube channel, RobLive, where we're going to list where you can purchase the book and also future speaking engagements and how you can connect with Lino directly, because I feel like he has such an important story. Purpose-driven pain.
Purpose-driven pain. Yeah, that's
Makes so much sense. I want to leave this episode with talking a little bit about mental health.
Yeah.
Because I feel that's so pivotal. And if you guys can see there, I'm wearing it still. It's the lime green, which is the official color of mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Mental Health Awareness Month is May.
Okay.
However, I believe, like many other causes, it's an everyday struggle. So people don't just struggle with mental health in May, right?
Yeah.
It's year round.
Oh, yeah.
And so we've given you a wristband.
Yeah.
And we'd like to see if, at some point you'd like to wear it and share with others. And
Yeah.
the wristband represents this idea that you are aware of other people's struggle.
Yeah.
And that you are a source of support that, you can listen
Yeah.
to other people. And I feel like that's what you're doing with your book. And I applaud you.
Oh, thank
And
you.
I applaud your courage, because the transparency is refreshing.
That's true.
Yeah, there's Jim's got the audience there, and it just really inspires me to try to be more transparent.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm a half open book.
Yeah.
Sometimes I appear to be a full open book, but there's a whole chapter that we're not, that I have to be ready and have the courage and humility to share. So thank you for inspiring me.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you for coming on the show. Lino Camacho. We'll start with the Mexican jumping bean, a.k.a.
Yep.
What was the other ones?
El Guapo.
El Guapo.
No,
There's like 7 different-
Miklo. What's the other one? El
so many
Güero.
names. El Güero.
Yeah, El Güero. Yeah.
Man, thank you for being here with us.
Yeah. Scarface.
Scarface.
SpongeBob.
Where's
Freddy
SpongeBob
Krueger.
from? I don't.
The acne scars.
Oh,
That was
God.
that was my older brother.
Brothers are ruthless.
Hey,
And Forrest Gump.
He
Forrest
must
Gump.
have thick skin, man, for being picked on it.
Oh yeah.
He seems so comfortable with all of it. Huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Forrest Gump. 'Cause I was Army, and then I found out that I needed braces when I was a kid, but I never got the braces, like Forrest Gump braces on his legs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I actually, the doctor said he might need braces on his legs. And so my mom told me this like this year. And so in front of my brothers.
Timing is
in front of my
impeccable.
brothers. In front of my brothers.
Oh, no.
And so you are Forrest Gump. And so, yeah.
You were like, Mom, you couldn't have told me this.
Yeah. In private.
Yeah, little did they know you would jump an 8-foot fence one day and save a life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, Lino, I just want to commend you. And if you haven't heard it before, you continue to save lives.
Oh, thank you.
And brother, I commend you for that. And, God continue to lead you on your path. Thank you for the inspiration. Thank you for the words. You guys can find Lino's book on Amazon, I believe.
Yes, Amazon and Barnes & Noble's website, and also they have it in Barnes & Noble in Visalia, and also the Book Nook in Visalia.
Oh, okay, so in Visalia. So he's local here in the Central Valley. We're going to add all the links. If you want to connect with him on Instagram, you want to connect with him on Facebook, that also exists. Mm-hmm. And let's continue to share his story of hope and purpose-driven pain. Once again, Lino Camacho right here with RobLive and Jim. And like we always say, love, peace, and chicken grease. We out.